Red Bull gives you wings.
Hey, Law.
Yeah?
I need a bit of help with styling since I'm new here, and I was wondering if I could show you a couple of outfits.
Yeah, sure.
Amazing, thank you so much. I'll be right back. I'm a porro snack. Get it?
I don't know, man. No, not really.
I don't know, Law. It's hopeless.
No, it's gonna be fine. Here, let's have a break.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Back to the drawing board then, I guess.
There's a place where everything begins. From the first tutorial journey to challenging the worlds. A place where people connect and friends rise to become legends. There's a place where adventure awaits you.
Welcome.
To the legendary lobby.
Marriott Bonvoy. Unlock exclusive member rates and legendary benefits across over 30 hotel brands worldwide. Sign up today for free and claim your Masterwork chest and key.
Hey, shouldn't you be on stage right now?
Hey, you got a pick.
Tom Kent?
What? I was not expecting this.
And a crazy off-meta pick that secured you the win. How did you come up with it?
I just listened to my gut.
If you had it all, would you look the fall in the eyes? Could you walk away this time? Will you realize, recognize it's never over? And the flame that once had died. Awaken. Will you rise above the days to come? Will you be enough? Will you walk away this time? 'Cause we all face the fires, and we stray from the light. Go and leave the pain behind. Feel that rush, feel the taste. Can you feel it? Rid the pain. Wash it away and stand again. Will you turn and run from what's to come? Will you face it all? Or will you fall away again? What's calling out to be found when the time is right? When the time is right. 'Cause we all face the fires, and we stray from the light. Go and leave the pain behind. Feel that rush, feel the taste. Can you feel it? Rid the pain. Wash it away and stand again. Feel the rush, feel the taste. Wash away what used to be. Will you make your stand? The world in your hands again. 'Cause we all face the fires, and we stray from the light. Turn the page and make it right. Feel that rush, feel the taste. Can you feel it? Rid the pain. Wash it away and stand again.
Down to the back end of the fight as Ice and Sheo getting chased down by this angry, light-eating monster. No wonder Vetti played it. It cleans house.
BQ, triple Q.
Nice, well played.
Well played, Seo, baby. Nice mind. Oh my god. Well played. Well done, guys. Okay, guys. They're really bad, okay? They can only win by chasing level 1 and shit like this, so let's be careful level 1.
Like Niski here, who's about to die. He should have gone to the website. Use the code Legend15 Niski. So Luon, he wants a hand, but Ike won't let him get away. No. Okay. Oh my god! But in the pitch out, he's just trying to take the Baron. He eventually knocks it down, fails his flash.
That was a quick one, guys. Well played. One more week.
I think on Baron you guys are trolling by the
One more week before vacation. That's good. Let's go.
And welcome back to the LEC live from the Riot Games Arena in Berlin, Germany. Today we keep on going with the elimination matches as of now. One team will continue to face off against BDS next Friday. And for the other one, the LEC season is gonna be over, sadly, so no more second chances for these teams. I'm Laure and I will be joined by Aragon and Finn. I feel like we're gonna talk about top lane today, maybe, seeing the two of you on the desk.
Can I just say, we have too many top laners on the analyst desk.
Right?
Between all of us and Odo, I think it's too many. I don't know.
We're gonna need to have a 1v1 contest.
Yeah, we should.
And whoever loses is no longer on the desk.
The better one
Kicked
stays.
out.
Yeah, kicked out. And that's what we're going to see today, unfortunately. And that's what we saw yesterday as well. SK out, finishing their season. It's really sad for this team, honestly, Finn, given the way they started the year, given the way they started summer, and completely crumbled yet again. It's always the same story with this team.
I mean, they really came into the summer split with a bang, and they actually showed so much to give us and instill hope in us. But then to see them lose in the playoffs once again, like they always do, it's very disheartening to see.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Aragon, really happy to see BDS perform the way they did. Yeah. They're back to good things, waiting for great things, because we know what they're capable of, but at least a glimpse of hope on their side.
Yeah, I think the big thing with BDS is they had some better individual performances, specifically with Adam and Nuke, but also I think the big overarching narrative is that this was the best performance we've seen from BDS in about a month and a half. I feel like they just have not. Though, but yeah. they just haven't had a good series in so long.
Which is interesting is that Adam was never worried, actually, talking to him yesterday. He was like, it's just a fluke, we're gonna come back. They had the trust within them.
Yeah, I mean, even listening to Euphoria, it seems like they never had any doubts regarding the fact that they were a top 3 team or not. They really knew that they would come back, and showing better than against KC and against Fnatic, very important for them.
Showing better and showing confidence, also bringing new picks to the table. I'm actually thinking about Cassiopeia on top lane on the side of Adam. We saw a lot of weird picks with the meta lately. I'm not sure if it's a case of flavor of the week for the LEC, so let's talk about this Cassio quickly. Something situational, I feel here.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard because I feel like now we're stepping into the fog of war of top lane and jungle as well to some degree, because we actually don't know what to expect when these teams go up. Everyone has their own little niche that they like to play. The Cassio into Rumble has been an answer for many, many years, and as see Adam bring it out was very exciting.
And we saw Mervin bringing the Corki top lane as well, a flex that we expect to see again. Maybe do you like it or not?
Corki was something I was dabbling with at the start when he got reworked, but a champion that I'm definitely extremely passionate about is this Nocturne. I think it's absolutely horrible. Right? I think it's a complete scrim pick, and I get the idea, right? Every team had a month or several weeks off to come up with something that counters the meta, something that counters 80 carries, and they came up with Dive. The problem is you put yourself on such a timer that in these games, post 20 minutes, if you don't get a huge lead or you make one mistake, which we saw yesterday or the last week as well, you just become a minion as Nocturne, right? You get a GA, you get a Sterak's, and if you go in, you're completely useless.
Yeah, and every Yin needs its Yang, and every bad pick like Nocturne is a good pick like Lilia, because I think Lilia has been popping off lately in the LPL. She's been played so much globally, but not really here in Europe, which is very surprising due to, I think Yike is one of our best Lilias in the region. When he came up, he was playing the Lilia, he was playing the Bel'Veth, perma-invading and making life so annoying for the enemy junglers. I really want them to bounce back on this pick and try to pick it up today.
I mean, he had to pick it today, right?
Yeah, right.
It is
surely.
now that it comes, surely.
It's not like every single desk I've had for G2, I've said, please can you pick Yike? Okay, so realistically, the thing is, I spoke to Yike, okay, and he was saying basically in previous metas, they just valued Brand more. Brand was just better, other AP champs were just better. So maybe now, since nerfs, they're going to pick it up again.
It's a case of whatever G2 feels like playing, honestly, lately. We'll see what they come up today, but for now, there's hope on the side of GX to bring G2 down, and it's going to come from the mid lane, so take it away, GB.
Thank you very much, Laure. Yeah, I still think today G2 is coming into this series as favorites, but they obviously lost to MDK, and I think by losing to MDK exploited some of the struggles that G2 has had recently in their early games, and I actually think that GX might be able to replicate some of the ways that G2 was exploited. So, we're going to go through some very standard things that you have seen a million times. The MDK bot lane gets priority. Wow, I know, crazy concept, but bear with me, because what this is going to allow them to is once again do something you've seen a million times. Super's going to have a favorable back that allows him to get back to lane faster, while Alvaro gets out on the map faster, while Hans and Mickey is still stuck in lane, trying to push it out to get themselves a good crash. But now let's take stock of what's actually happened then, because this allows Elyoya and Alvaro to sync up together way before the G2 members get to do. Let's see where they are right now. Mickey has only now just made it back in base. Yike is luckily hovering around mid lane because he needs to be worried about the fact that they know that Alvaro just reset. They might come in for a play on mid lane and they need to be ready to answer that play. G2 have seen this play a million times themselves. So how do they react to that? well, they are still around here, but suddenly it starts going wrong for some reason. Yank is setting up his recall, and Caps is going to start taking some very aggressive trades, putting himself in a position where Elyoya and Varo will actually be able to punish him. And they're doing so while you look at the minimap that Mickey has still not made his way into mid lane. He's still so far away. So Yike is going to complete the recall, leaving Caps out to dry. Caps, for some reason, is going to step forward while his jungler just left the map. And Mickey only now just comes in. This is something that is such a standard play in League of Legends that you should not fall for. But we saw G2 fall for this place not only this one time, but also early in the series when they were playing the Annie. And hopefully this is something that GX can exploit today, where they get a bot lane with priority, and that allows them to play with a favorable tempo for Jackies, who has been a star player for GX. And now Gennaro is actually standing by with Jackies as well, and assisting Coach Nico in the Marriott Bonvoy pre-game lobby.
Thank you so much. Ginny here, and I'm joined with Jackies as well as Nicholas from GX. Guys, let's have a little bit of a conversation ahead of the first best of 5 that we're going to be looking at today. It's going to be going up against G2. And I want to start off with you, Nicholas, particularly because of a tweet regarding the preparation that came into this and controlling the variables of a best of 5 environment in the scrims, but then also to be able to replicate it on stage. Can we maybe have a little bit on an insight of the science and the thought process behind it?
It was mainly an idea of our performance coach, Cardonetti. So the global goal for this exercise was to create an atmosphere that was looking like best of 5. So we were putting like a noise of G2 fans. We were like giving the same nutritional follow-up as we were doing in best of 5 to the players. So the idea is just to create a comfort zone towards all these variables to allow the players to just be more comfortable on stage.
So that's something that's going to be tested out today, Jackies, when it comes to these best of 5 series. When I talk about the preparation that went into this, when it comes to getting comfortable with these variables, for you as a player, does it make you feel more comfortable going on stage today?
I mean, the one we prepared, I'm pretty sure the BO5 we played, we lost in scrims, so not really. But for me, I mean, I don't really mind anything about BO5s and nerfs, because for me, BO5, more games on stage, and I enjoy playing on stage, so for me, it's just like BO5 means more fun, you know?
Well, you're going to be having fun against Caps, particularly in that mid lane. And this is a matchup that a lot of people have been looking forward to, and we've seen a couple of times in the LEC during the regular split. Coming into this, you're coming this year in as a rookie, and this is potentially the match, right? It could end here, it could continue, but you're going up against the most decorated player that we have in the league. What does that feel like?
I mean, for me, it's always exciting. Because playing against Caps, you know, even if he has bad form, good form, like it's just Caps, you know. So it's always gonna be fun on mid lane, and he's one of the aggressive players, and I like to play aggressive myself. So for sure, one of the more fun matchups. And just if I can take him down in a BO5, then I think I'm ready to take on the whole season finals if you take this one.
All right, I'm excited. You're talking a big game, but I also want to look at it from a coach's perspective. When we're heading into these BO5s, you're already talking about the prep and making the players a little bit more comfortable. What else is there that you can really do to ensure that when you are going the distance, when you have to go all the way to those 5 games, could be a couple of hours, what can you do to make them perform at their best?
I mean, I think like our main job as coach right now, looking all the meta, how the meta is going, etc. It's more about adaptability. Mm-hmm. I think like you never know how a game is going in the best of 5. You never know the drafts. You never know all the enemy preparation. You never know you never know. So the main concern that we have with Cass and Emi is to always be sure that we can adapt the best as possible. Because like we just need to change every pick, we just need to change our preparation, and also based on how the game is going, we also need to react differently after with the players individually or with the group. So I think like it's just adaptability. Okay,
I'm looking forward to that ability, but also I'm looking forward to the fun in the mid lane later today. So good luck to both of you with the series, and Laure, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ginny. Amazing to hear from GX and what looks to be, honestly, an insane preparation coming up against G2 today, but it is do or die for them. It is their time to show that the efforts they put in all summer are gonna come in clutch today, and I love the confidence on the side of Jackies because realistically, guys, if you look at GX and what they've been doing, Jackies is the I don't want to say the only thing, but what is going the best in the early game for GX at least? Because the rest is a hot mess on the other side.
And I like that he's coming in with his confidence, because if you go against G2, you can't come in docile, you can't be passive when you walk in there. You have to be ready to fight them on the map, in the trenches, wherever they are. So seeing him come in there, we know GX has struggled in the early game because most often the side lanes of top lane and bot lane are usually behind. So having Jackies as the ranker to actually be the way to get them into this mid game without being too behind is very, very important for them to succeed.
And I think it was really curious that he was talking a lot about adaptability, the coach of Giant X, in that interview, because to me, they're one of the most one-dimensional teams in the entire league, right? You have a tank top lane, a tank jungle, a tank support, and 2 damage dealers in your carry roles. And that's it, every single time, unless the Antonio has something new prepared, like a Ziggs, hint, hint, for later on. No, but the point is, I think it's exploitable, right? I think you can target Jackies, and if you get rid of some of the damage dealers, because they need a lot of damage coming from these roles, if you target ban them, for example, champions like the Azir, champions like the Zeri.
You know what? Yeah, let's bring up Jackie's champion pool and tell me what you think is targetable and where is the avenue for victory here on the side of GX when you look at the champions he's playing.
Yeah, so fundamentally in drafts, the problem with Giant X is that you need a lot of damage from somewhere, and you're not getting it top lane, so you need it from Jackies and Patrick, and therefore you're stuck to a certain archetype of champion that does a lot of DPS for neutrals, for shredding tanks, and so on. And if you target ban these champions away, champions like the Azir that enable you to do this, I think it's definite weakness that you can exploit in draft if you're G2.
Yeah, but we'll see how it is coming in, because will he keep playing these AD carry mids that he's shown so much success on, or is he going to adapt for this series? Because we don't know if they're actually going to stay the same as they've been before.
I want to look at the side of G2 quickly here, because the game is about to start soon, and I'm really worried when it comes to what I saw from G2 last week, and I'm thinking about an avenue of mistakes you can exploit, and I feel like it came from draft.
Yeah, I mean, G2's draft last week was very uncertain. I think you brought up the point that they really drafted heavily into these dive comps. You can, as you said.
Yeah, so the thing is, right, I think, okay, this might be full copium, but I think they were experimenting and they were falling back on the fact that they had a lower bracket to work with. They kept forcing the same kind of...
But okay.
They kept forcing the same thing over and over again, despite it not working and being incredibly hard to pilot. They have full dive into a bunch of AD carries with Ken and Blind non-stop with the Vi, and I don't think they're going to do that again. In this lower bracket run, I imagine they're going to put, for example, BB on counter pick and not blind pick the Kennen, as well as go away from the Vi.
Yeah, and my big question is the Hansama drafts, because he has been criticized for his champion pool that he didn't want to play the Seri, the Jinx, and he's always leaned towards this Draven and Kalista, and I really want them to choose now, because now it's the end of the series, end of the season, and you have to choose. Do you want him to play these champions, or do you just commit to the Draven and Kalista and try to force these bans like they did in spring?
Realistically, if there's hope on the side of GX, where would you put it? We've talked about a lot of stuff, but closing note on this ahead of the first game.
I'm gonna say ignore. This guy, he stepped up to the plate many times against SKT, against G2 last year when he was on NRG, and I think he can do it again. If there's a hope of it, there's there.
We don't talk about Worlds, but maybe he can pull this one and the metal trick on G2. We'll see about this in just a few seconds, as we're gonna find out if G2 is back to their usual strength, or if GX is gonna be able to concretize all the efforts they put in this summer. It has to come in clutch now. One mistake and it's elimination on the line for one of these teams. The losing one will end their LEC season, while the winner will advance on the road to Munich. Only surprises, no more second chances. Casters, over to you.
And Cavs is sent packing. Now G2 in a 4v5 have to find a way to fight back, but Ayoya will not give them that opportunity. It's a beautiful fight.
They will knock G2 down.
Definitely a big disappointment going up against Matt. Definitely wanted to win and secure Munich. I think we were lacking a lot of confidence for sure. On draft, they were catching us off guard, so we get a chance to really figure out this patch.
GX can pop off in some moments. I think one of our strengths is our drafting. People don't usually expect what you're gonna play. We can be one of the surprises in the tournament. When I am under pressure, I tend to focus a bit more.
He flashes, but so Jackie does as well. He flies through, he electrocutes, he finds a breathing light in the middle of the fight, and Wonder comes in late. But man, with a quadra kill out when they needed him most, Jackie's fly.
If we wanna win this whole thing, we just have to use our strengths and just outsmart enemies.
We're gonna come from the lower bracket. We're gonna take it home all the way.
Well, here we are to see if G2 will make the lower bracket run once again, or whether Giant X will
bring us the upset of the year, I would say, in the LEC if they manage to take down G2, and also make Worlds qualification very easy for the rest of our teams in our bracket. If G2 are knocked out today, whoever makes finals, whoever goes to the grand finals of the season finals in Munich will be going to Worlds alongside.
Not a bad place to be. Certainly the case. We haven't seen Giant X for a while now. Did fall short during the summer split playoffs. But mainly, I think coming into this series, a lot of eyes are on G2. They will be representing us already at the World Championship, as Menik has already highlighted. And so expectations are naturally very high. As a Worlds representative, Europe wants to see them dominate today, and Giant X are going to be looking to try and put a stop to that.
A lot of question marks raised, though, on G2 after the performance against MDK. With MDK being able to take them in that game 5, a lot of people were disappointed in the performance we saw from G2. So I think today is about trying to come back in and silence a lot of those doubters and show that G2 is still the best team in the LEC.
Last time we saw a huge priority on the cannon for G2. I wonder if that's going to stay the same, especially when we know the type of champions that the Antonio is willing to bring out himself. On top of that, Vi was something that G2 really valued, and MDK found effective answers with things like the Morgana. Giant X will likely have studied that series in depth and found their own solutions, and already when we get into the draft, we can see the cannon being taken away from G2.
Yeah, it feels like G2 trying to force us back in towards, you know, the Maokai and the Sejuani picks here, and it's been something where we've seen the Amumu come out for Juhan in that kind of meta, so I am curious to see if that is the tank jungle meta we're going to be forcing ourselves into, or whether Yike is willing to go back towards the carries.
There's the Ziggs band away. The Antonio has been spamming that in solo queue, so G2 doing their due diligence, have been doing their research before the series. We'll get rid of the Ziggs top, Renekton, Kennen band away alongside the Nidalee and the Vi. A lot of those power picks still available though. MF, Ezreal, both still up for these teams. Zeri as well, something we've seen banned out quite a lot over the last few weeks. Aatrox, the final ban, and from the way Dylan's laughing, I think perhaps Broken Blade has been playing that a little bit in solo queue as well.
I imagine that they're banning that because they want an Ornn. Yep. And they know that Broken Blade usually uses this as an answer to it. You have to imagine the Misfortune's going to be the first pick from G2. It has been a perma red side ban in Europe. So, but G2 saying, you know what, our priorities are slightly different. Instead, they're going to lock in the Ashe. We've seen Hans Summer play a bunch of this during the summer split. So you imagine that this is going to go into the AD carry position, but there's always the possibility of it flexing to support as well.
Yeah, I think either way, it's just incredibly strong. The ultimate being able to set up for picks in the early stages is super nice, especially when you're able to toss those towards the mid lane. And when a lot of these mid lane matchups are incredibly volatile, where you're looking at double AD carries, it just means that that can easily then snowball into mid lane just being completely under control. Maokai going to be taken on the opposite side though, which I do like, because again, Jackie's has been able to bring out a lot of things like the Yone and these kind of AD mid laners that a lot of other mid lane pool hasn't picked up.
Alongside the Maokai will be the Rel for Ignar, something we saw Mickey bring out 4 times in their series against Mad Lions Koi. However, Ezreal and Zeri, still both possibilities. Misfortune as well, if we want to go for double AD carries, we could see a Zeri, Ezreal mid, and then that Misfortune picked up maybe later for Giant X.
Curious if you want to go for the Braum here as well, just to try and deny the Rel engage, and then take something like the Sejuani just to match in the jungle, although looks immediately like they're going to go towards the Ivern, so definitely going to play a little bit more of a squishy composition, it feels like, with Ivern trying to provide that AP damage for what I assume will be an AD mid lane.
Yeah, I wonder if AD mid is what they're thinking about. Right now it's looking like the Braum. There's 2 factors here. First, into Maokai, very effective. Also, pretty solid matchup into the Rel. But it pushes the Antonio away from any potential on top lane picks. Yep. We'll see whether or not he still fancies his chances with that pick. Cheeky hover over the Neela, something that Patrick has played many times before. Something that he's very experienced on. But it's going to be the Zeri. Makes a huge amount of sense, very strong in the current meta, can also be flexed into both mid and AD carry, something that G2 will have to respect, given that Giant X, I mean, in the highlight reel coming into this, we already saw Jackie's pop-off performance on the champion earlier this split.
Yeah, Jackie's has to be somewhere our eyes are fixed for this series for Giant X. Aragon was talking about how they traditionally go 3 tanks, 2 carries. Jackie's has so consistently been the carry for Giant X, and as a squad that hasn't placed anywhere higher than 6th this year, if they're going to get farther in the season finals, a lot of the weight of expectation will be on Jackie's shoulders.
Mid lane party now for the bans from Giant X, trying to force away from the Azir, which does work well with the Ivern, even in the AP, just just because that attack speed means you can get value out of the shields that the Ivern brings along. But I am curious if we end up seeing more like Lucian mid here for Caps. I think it's something that's just incredibly strong, and or even the Corki, because I feel like you still are fine to go with these AD mid laners, but I think the main question for me is what does Broken Blade take on the top side?
I think the question also is, will Caps actually go towards those AD mid laners? Because last time against MDK, he didn't play a single AD mid throughout the course of that 5-game series. It felt like G2 had settled on this. We're going to play Majors mid-draft. We're going to dive onto the MDK backline here. We do see the Tristana banned away by Giant X, but as you say, Lucian's still there, Ezreal's still there for Caps if he wants an AD in mid.
I think it's also just like we saw G2 going for a lot of the Aurora bans as well, so it kind of felt like they just weren't comfortable with an understanding of the new meta coming into this. So I think that is a question of like, how do they then approach this new draft? Ezreal taking on the opposite side of the bot lane, but
And Aurora obviously globally disabled at the moment because of some issues regarding chrono breaks when she is in the game, so that's why we haven't been seeing it banned out across the course of this weekend. There's the Ezreal though for Giant X, still flexibility as to whether the Zeri is mid or that Ez is going mid, or even something like a Zeri top is a possibility. Not something I would expect that much from the Antonio, but we have seen it in other regions.
Cassante plus Corki probably makes the most sense here. They can also do Smolder. We've been seeing it pop up. We even saw it yesterday. As you mentioned, Dagda, rookie, someone that's been a big advocate of the champion. In mid lane, relatively safe, good scaling, offers this huge late game threat. And when you have Braum plus an Ivern, you have a huge amount of peel and protection for your AD carries. I would argue that G2's composition is somewhat limited in terms of its engage, with Braum as your primary support. He doesn't have the strongest tools to actually start a fight. However, the pick potential on G2 is very high. They have a lot of single target CC when you think about Braum passive, Ashe arrow, the Ivern Q, all sorts of tools to be able to lock down a single target. I will also say that their composition loves it when the enemy runs into them. However, Giant X have a decent amount of range at their disposal. They have both the Zeri and the Ezreal. The truth is, gentlemen, I think this is going to be a relatively slow game. 80 carries across the board, a tank matchup on the top side, 2 utility junglers with, well, supports. So very much focused around team fights, very much focused around scaling, and it's going to come down to execution around these neutral objectives.
Yeah, I'm really curious how G2 do try and set up for fights, because a huge amount of it feels like it's on Hansama's ult or the Q from Ivern to try and set them up. But if that misses, or you know, you've got to cleanse in the right time, it feels like for G2 it's kind of impossible to get these fights up and rolling. So Giant X get that opportunity to try and scale, but I think that's where G2 are hoping that this Smolder can beat them out in that regard.
Yeah, Ivern with 280 carries as well as the game goes on is going to scale very well. The Ezreal and the Zeri for Giant X will have a lot of power as the game goes on as well. As you say, Veddy, does feel like it's going to be a little bit of a slower game, not as much explosiveness from either of these compositions. I had a look back through Patrick's history on the Ezreal. It's something we've seen him play a lot of times. In fact, his second most played across the course of his career, but has lost about 75% of the games that he has played on it over 27 games. And obviously Patrick has been on teams that have failed, so it's not always an indictment on how good he is on the champion, but he really wants to show in this game that he can land that poke, that he can land those Qs and whittle G2 down before the fight begins.
We're getting ready for game 1 of this best of 5. The winner will make their way onto the next round of the season finals to face up against BDS next week. The loser will be eliminated. And in the case of G2, if they are in fact eliminated, they will still make their way towards the World Championships. Unfortunately for Giant X, it's kind of all or nothing here today. And I think coming in, we can all set our expectations that even after G2's recent performances, they're still the heavy favorites in today's best of 5. So it's on Giant X to show us what they've been preparing, what they've got. And so far in terms of the draft, it looks like that they haven't showed us anything too crazy, which could be a good thing for them, considering they're sticking to the style that they've been able to find some degree of success with, and they're going into a composition that is very similar to their own.
Yeah, especially when Giant X have still shown that they struggle in the mid-game. Even when they can find early success, it's someone getting caught out, they're not in the right position, and they end up throwing away those leads. So I think there's a lot of question marks around how Giant X even approach their mid-game. And especially against a team like G2, they are still very good at punishing that. We still saw remnants of that against MDK, so for Giant X, it is definitely an uphill battle, and it looks like they may have opted out of some of the battles as the Antonio is sitting on this bottom side. It might be a lane spot we're looking at.
I mean, it's definitely going to be a lane swap, isn't it? You can see Igno and Patrick walking in here, trying to put some pressure down onto Yike, who did place that ward as he poked his nose in early doors. So Igno and Patrick will be aware that Yike started on this bottom side. You can see on the camp that Ivern passive built up. Antonio's going to have to deal with some 2v1 pressure in the bottom lane. And actually looks like Patrick might be sent on his lonesome to face up against Broken Blade. Hans Summer chipping away at the Antonio, kind of to be expected. The wave will slowly push towards the Giant side of the map.
We'll see how well this lane swap pays off for Giant X. You've got to remember that it's a scary thing to do, given the current, well, balance of the game, given that the bot tower just kind of melts, whereas the top tower is very resistant. Juhan going to use the swap to take advantage and steal away these topside camps. Yike. I wonder how much knowledge he has of this, because obviously he's seen the swap now. He knows that those bot camps of Giant X should still be available.
Yeah, I think Yike's aware. I think he just spotted Maokai on a ward that was placed in river, and you could even see he was thinking of going into his top side to try and steal that camp away after seeing the lane swap, but decided against it when he realized his health bar was a little low. So Juhan going to be able to steal away this top side, but I imagine Yike is just going to respond in kind by moving into this bot side and getting camps of his own.
Ignar's here to cover the dive, but G2 should be aware that Ignar hasn't shown anywhere on the map as of yet, so even though he's been out of vision, the dive would be a little precarious for them. They're going to look for it anyway. No one tanking the tower as of yet. Antonio hits the level 2. Ignar shows his face and should be able to clear up these minions underneath the turret. Yike will be able to path into this blue side to steal away a couple of these camps, although Juhan did take the wolves on his first clear.
Broken Blade's a little far up, though. He ended up pushing the wave in the top side. You can see where Juhan has put his attention. He might be able to get something.
Broken Blade's already popped the ghost. He's going to try and escape. And the top lane manages to dash away. So he does use a summoner, but it still holds on to his life.
I will say I'm curious as to what the game plan here is for Giant X, because if we're only 3 minutes in, of course, but if we kind of take stock real quick, Ezreal's getting isolated experience, sure, that's cool, but Broken Blade isn't really being denied anything, whereas Antonio is losing out on a lot of farm. He's at the risk of getting dived once again. Yike is still hovering around the bot side of the map. They're being very cautious. Look, this wave will hit at just the right time, so now G2 can stack up another wave to threaten another dive.
And it's even if you don't get the dive, you're still getting plates for Hans Summer.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of things, it's working out wonderfully for you. So I agree with you, Vetty. I'm not really sure what the thought process is from Giant X.
Nor am I. Guys, we're all on the same page, that we're not quite sure what page Giant X currently sit on. Wave shoved out by Patrick could just be, of course, to avoid the early pressure that Hans and Mickey can put down on Patrick and Ignar, maybe get him towards the level 3, level 4, and then he can path back down towards this bottom side. But as I say, that looks like he's opening up top. Could play around the grubs in a minute and a half time. Antonio will be able to catch this wave under the turret. G2 look like they're going to head back down to the bottom side, so not going to match Ignar and Patrick in top lane.
I mean, I guess that's probably the most compelling reason. They just wanted to avoid the 2 versus 2. They wanted to allow Patrick to, at the very least, get good farm. And you kind of look at the bot lane, there's only 100 gold difference, and there's a whole wave for Patrick to still to catch in top.
And Patrick is a whole level ahead, which is about, if I remember correctly, about 400 to 600 gold worth of stats in and of itself. So if you are going to contest around the grubs, if you are going to look for these early plays, then getting your Ezreal to a position where he's a level ahead of his opponent is a benefit.
And, I mean, they haven't lost anything, like aside from a few plates, the bot side of the map. So the bot lane dive never really came through from G2. So yeah, okay, I mean, there's no detriment so far shown to the swap at the very least.
I think the biggest problem is going to come in the next few minutes where, say you try and go for Void Grubs for Giant X, but having this Ezreal on the top side, you go for the dive on towards bot lane, and even if you don't, you can start to get another 2 plates off the back of that play, or even maybe look for a full turret take, and you just don't have that same threat because you haven't got any damage, and suddenly you're losing map state already at this portion of the game, which opens up Mickey to start to roam. I think that's where Giant X are going to start to struggle, is if G2 just get map control off of this position.
For the moment, looks like Juhan's just going to use the fact he has a numbers advantage on the top side to start up those grubs. It's about a 500 gold difference between the two teams. You can see Broken Blade and Yike at 150 to 200 ahead of their opponents. Yike's now pathing down towards the bot side. Could look for a dive on the Antonio, who's about a quarter of the way to that level 6.
And this is the play I was talking about. As soon as you show up towards that top side, they look for the dive, and now you're going to start to fall behind.
Ignar's making his way down here, but not going to be there too quickly. The wave arriving means that Mickey can't hit a Winter's Bite. Now gets the first stack of those concussive blows, staggering blows in fact, as they'll lose a plate, but with the minion wave dying off, the Antonio should be fine underneath the turret for now.
He's completely fine. grub secured. Resets come through. Notice Ignar's now made his way back to bot, which makes the dive much harder. The level 6 as well. Yeah, I mean, oh, Hans.
Caps in the mid lane, lightning crash coming out. Caps does still have the flash to try and avoid this. Puts down the mom to try and call for a little bit of aid. Jackie's flash away, the level up! Just in time there for Jackie's, gets him over to level 7. Both the mid laners flashless now as Yike comes to help out Caps. True shot barrage going wide.
That was a tense moment. Now the Antonio looking for a fight.
Mickey's stunned into the wall, has the flash, puts the ignite down onto the Antonio, who flashes away, as does Ignar. There's the first bit of CC, and Ignar is going to pay for Antonio's dive in with his life, and the Antonio might be soon to follow. G2 find their first kill and the first kill of the game.
I just want to confirm, the Antonio picked that fight, right? Yep. He was like, we're going in. Yeah, that was not the best of decisions, and now he's all on his lonesome in this bottom side. And no TP to help him out.
Is it enough? Can he helicopter his way out of this one? The answer is an emphatic no. G2 get their second.
Now, that was quite a big misplay, because what was a relatively even early game is now going to explode massively in favor of G2. TP going to be committed by the Antonio to try and catch bot wave, but Ansama's going to secure another plate. He secured himself first blood. Broken Blade now could be the one in danger.
Ghosts immediately as soon as he sees Juhan coming across that ward. Ignite here to help out, but the ward will be cleared and Broken Blade still escapes.
Yeah, I think they had to pull away there because there's always an opportunity for Broken Blade to hold Juhan through the wall and then just having that isolated 1v1 where honestly you probably could pick off Juhan if you had enough time. So just going to back away from that one, and Ghost burnt, not the end of the world. G2 still coming out on top.
I will say that, like, I think they should have just swapped back. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Isn't Poppy a good matchup into Kazante?
Yeah, it was what we saw at MSI. Oscar Winning cracked it out to try and win those matchups.
And, I mean, now you can see that he's what, 20 CS down, he's died once, he uses the ultimate to just be annoying to Caps, which, you know, I mean, I think he succeeded in that front. I mean, again, like, when you look at the grand scheme of things, sure, it's not that dramatic, right? The goal difference isn't too crazy, but the problem is that when you have two scaling compositions, it kind of becomes this race of who reaches their breakpoints faster, and you've just accelerated G2. So now coming into the next Dragon, G2's likely to have those first items completed, whereas you're still in the components phase.
But it's also the weaknesses we've seen from G2 have been their early game. So opting out of that does seem a little bizarre. Now, Giant X aren't the best in the early stages, like they do average a deficit when it comes to the 14-minute mark, but still, if you're going to fight them, it feels like the early game is really where you want to try and put blood in the water against G2.
For the moment, Giant X have been unable to find any blood. Ignar's looking for some down towards the bottom lane. Cap still no flash, can flap his way away from the fight for now. Mickey's here to defend him. Mom, it's called and is able to clear out the wave.
Or at least the plate is secured for Giant X.
But I think for Giant X, a lot of the weight is on Jackie's in the mid lane. The only guy, if you look down at the bottom of the scoreboard with that red number next to his name, he's been so consistently a carry for this team. The question is, can he step up here against G2?
Well, he's going to have to. As you already highlighted, a lot of the carry responsibility typically falls onto his and Patrick's shoulders, and with a composition like this, his positioning is going to be crucial. I think Zeri can still 1v9 games, especially in compositions like this. Obviously, one of the big differences is that G2's carries have a lot more peel. Yeah. Like, a lot more. While Giant X's kind of, while they offer peel, like Maokai can offer good peel as well, it's a different type of, like, it's like a protection rather than a utility-based, whereas both the Braum shield just mitigates damage along with the shield mitigates damage, and so this front to back is going to be interesting, because I do think the Giant X do have a slightly squishier front line.
For the moment, no fighting occurring, only those 2 kills in the bottom lane for G2. The Drake secured as well by Yike. Giant X, I mean, they might as well be seeing Deadpool and Wolverine with how much cinema is happening in front of their faces.
I mean, they're going to get push here in mid for G2 as well, so I wouldn't even be surprised if they want to try and lean over for Void Grubs, but they want to try and establish themselves on this bottom side, prevent the push from Jackie's, and deny at least a play that Giant X could try and set up on towards Caps.
Grubs are up. No one really seems to be interested in them whatsoever right now, though.
It's so often we've seen G2 kind of just end up with these isolated towers for little reason, right? Like, you're setting up there for Ash, but here comes the play.
Nature's Gasp onto Mickey. He flashes, stand beside Yike, and escapes. So we get the flash out of the Braum, but not too much more there for Giant X.
And now they're just going to roam down onto the bottom side because Giant X have all moved to defend the mid lane turret because they were in an awkward spot. So G2 going to move down now and try and finish off that last remaining turret plate, potentially take bot tower and give it to Caps.
I guess G2 is saying that we're happy to sacrifice Grubs in exchange for the bot tier 1. But Giant X is actually just focused on clearing their bot side camps and have no interest, which means that you now have this kind of standoff. But looking at this tower, I don't think there's really much for Giant X to defend. I would argue that they're overcapitalizing on... Ooh, Jackies. Yeah, I think they're overcapitalizing on an objective that there's not much that they can really do about. That's usually why the response to a situation like this is fine, we'll trade. If we're going to lose that tower anyway, we may as well get something back for it. But they're not getting anything back for it. They're just kind of watching their towers slowly die.
Giant X kind of just got caught, where it was like, hey, we want to look at Dragon. The way we enter in through Dragon Pit is we have push on bot, so let's move to the bottom side of the map. But then that opened up for Hansama to get push in mid and make it really difficult then for Giant X to contest the mid wave. So they have to hard push in towards the mid side, which means G2 then just get control over the bot push. So Giant X are kind of just trying to do too much and defend too many areas rather than just coming up with a solid game plan in advance and saying, hey, we're going to forego Dragon, put pressure mid, or forego Dragon and get Void Grubs and put pressure top. It's just in an awkward situation for them.
I like what G2 is doing here by just sending their support and jungle to the bot side of the map, knowing that that tower is an easy objective. Also, they watched Juhan clear those bot camps, so you can make a pretty educated guess that he's not going to be in the area. They control the space with vision, and then they secure the objective. So, yep, it's just kind of a consequence of all of the prior objectives. G2 kind of staying true to their game plan. Now, you would imagine that they turn their attention either towards Herald, which, of course, not alive yet, but it will be relatively soon, and they can then use that to try and break open the mid tower, or instead, they can just shift their control towards the top side and set their sights on the tier 1 outer tower.
And the thing is, because all the shifting has been through jungle support and AD carry on both sides, it's just been Caps free farming. So he's actually got a relatively good stacks up at the moment. Like, you still want to get the 2-2-5 is when the burn comes in, but he's still stacking incredibly quickly and will only start to stack faster as this game goes on. So I think Giant X, they just haven't created enough pressure at the moment to really do anything against G2. So G2 are just happy to scale into a strong mid game.
Yeah, and what Giant X did in the early game, getting Patrick that extra XP, trying to get him hyper-leveled, isn't really doing much because he's just matching Hansama in the mid lane. They both just clear the wave and then nothing happens, right? So across the board, G2 have had the benefit of the early game. The arrow there hitting onto Ignar. TP in as Giant X are looking to dive at Cassante. Now, he does have the Crossfire Gauntlet and a Redemption, and even with the Nature's Grasp, I'm not sure he dies here. Gets the knockback, Ignar has to jump away. Yeah, okay, Giant X, this was bloody awful. This was diabolical. Giant X went for the dive, and all they're gonna do is die. Cass has so much free time in the top lane. The Lightning Crash coming out, Magnet Sword from Ignar as well, but Broken Blade has already found 2 out of the fight. They're gonna make it 3. It's a disaster for Giant X, and G2 happily eat up their rewards. Ignar trying to get away, but Hansama's here on the chase. Ignar has a flash, but I don't think he escapes from that. 6-0 for G2.
I think Giant X just got too impatient. The idea there is the right one. You overstack bot, you commit to the tower, but they just didn't have a wave to play off. And they thought that by using the TP, they could stall the minion dying long enough to set up for the dive, but also you're trying to dive a Cassante who still had absolutely everything up. It was over-ambitious. They should have just waited for the next wave and traded towers. Instead, they overforced, they get collapsed on, and now they find themselves down 0-6 in kills.
This, to me, looks like G2 beat GX before they got onto the Rift. Like, GX are trying to overcomplicate things, overthink things, and this is, hey, we need this bot play to work out, so we're going to try and hard force it. But as you said on the call, Medic, like, it's very difficult to take down a Cassante in this position. Your damage dealer isn't really there. And the rest of G2 are on the way as well, and you know they are because the Ashar already came through, so it's just way too much from GX trying to overforce these things, and it feels like they, I don't know, this isn't the Giant X that we would have seen in summer.
I mean, Giant X have never had a good early game.
Yeah, but this is...
It's, they're a team that, you know, you can criticize G2 for their early game performances for sure, but Giant X are pretty much our worst early game team in the league, and it's decisions like this that really kind of put them in that deficit. The problem is, I think G2's just lane assignments and mid-game macro is at a very high level. And so they'll punish you for your poor lane assignments. And they're going to prove that right now by securing the final ladder tower. The gold is 7,000? Yeah. 7,000. And, I mean, you look at the bottom of your screen, even Mickey has a 1.4k gold lead over Ignar.
I'm sure Caps wishes he had a couple of those kills that Mickey has picked up throughout the course of the game. Also on Bloodsong Braum, it is not something you see all the time, but it is quite aggressive. And I think in this sort of game state, it makes sense to be quite aggressive as the support. G2 have taken all the tier 1s. There's a Drake for them if they want it. Inferno, they've now secured the Rift Herald as well. And a bunch of pings from GiantX down towards that dragon. It feels odd to say maybe they make their final stand there at the 17-minute mark, but it does feel like if they're not able to win a fight in the next couple of minutes, this game's just going to get away from them.
You don't even have, you know, something close on the horizon that can try and set you up. Jackie's has only just completed the Blade of the Rune King. G2 starting to come in with second items, especially when you're looking at Caps as well, like moving up towards that second item. You're just so far behind here as GX, and now they're going to try and desperately set up this dragon, but does BB TP in, or did G2 let it go?
There's TP behind. Daisy coming out as well as G2 want to take the fight. Keeper's verdict hits onto Yike, forces him away. Mickey puts down the Unbreakable. Redemption coming out as well as Broken Blade dives onto the backline. The Drake secured by Juhan. Hans trying to force Jackie's away and manages to do so. Caps now opening up as the dive comes back in from the Antonio. But he'll fall first. Juhan trying to put some saplings down to slow G2 on their advance. In the end, it's a Drake for a kill. GiantX taking the dragon.
GiantX, they had a nice setup. G2 wanted to try and contest with a flanking TP. It's kind of comical how low the overall damage is this point in the game. These 80 carries, sure, those one-item spikes definitely offering value, but you can see how with these front lines being as strong as they are this early on, it's very slow to kill anyone, but a nice knockout of Yike meant that GiantX could secure the objective. But look at how much they're conceding. The bot wave is being pushed in, mid pushed in as well. G2 now making their way towards the enemy camps, and Yike's going to steal that one away. Hans also going to be able to get himself the red buff just to add a bit of insult to injury. So in terms of map control, G2 definitely still the ones in control.
Yeah, and look, you can see the TP ward for a Broken Blade to come in. GiantX just trying to steal this away as quickly as possible. But I think when you look towards the top half of this fight, Jackie's, the position that he had here was actually really strong because it forces Hans Sama to try and play up towards his top side with Patrick. So it's only Caps who's trying to decide which side of the fight he goes to, which then buys space for Ignar to get out. And it will end up being the Foppy that ends up dropping. But in the grand scheme of things, I think that diversion, essentially, that Jackie's and Patrick ran on the top side helped out in it securing the fact that G2 didn't know where to put their attention.
Still an 8,000 gold lead for G2, 19.5 minutes in. They could look for an early Baron if they want. Smolder Ash with an Ivan behind them will help them take that relatively quickly. Jackie's has the flash here. G2 starting to collapse. He's got one ward behind him, and I don't think Jackie's knows. As you can see, the Antonio struggling in terms of gold. Hans Summer has the redemption. The TP coming in as well by GiantX, but the Antonio, I'm sorry, mate, I'm not sure this is where you want to be today. The rest of his team are trying to collapse, but there's the 2 tanks on their way, and immediately they decide not to join him in dying. There's 2 quick kills to G2.
Unfortunately, a symptom of a pervasive problem that we've continued to see of GiantX is Jackie's getting caught in a side lane. It's happened multiple times in summer splits, an issue that we were hoping coming into season finals he was able to rectify, but when he finds himself at a deficit, he tries his best to get those resources, to funnel that farm back into himself, but he leaves himself exposed, and G2's a team that will not allow that to go unpunished. They find themselves a kill, they punish the TP from the Antonio, they get another tower, they're going to try and convert it into another one. And I mean, this game was already out of control, but it's going from bad to worse as G2 extend to a 10k gold lead 20 minutes in.
And the Baron's only just bloody spawned. At this stage, you're going to be stuck in your own bases, GiantX. You have no hope of trying to contest this. G2 just kind of get to do whatever the hell they want, and you need some sort of miracle here from GiantX to pick someone off, to find something to slow down the pace of this game. But how far ahead G2 are, I feel like they just group as 5 and do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, smack them with your wallets at this point, right? You have the fat stacks, you might as well use them. The only good thing for Giant X is Caps hasn't really been involved in most of the recent fights. Most of the time he's been pushing side lanes, so he's still only 188 stacks on the Smolder.
Yeah, and he's only 1.8k. Oh,
yeah, he's only
1.7k
1.7k ahead, right? He's basically a support in this position, but no. Caps will still do a huge amount of damage even without that execute. Remember, the execute doesn't scale anymore with the amount of stacks you have. As soon as you get to 225, I think it's a 6.5% max HP execute. Still very powerful, still something you're aiming for on the Smolder, but he has 2 items, he's got that 2k gold lead, and Giant X really don't have a hope in hell of coming back into this one. G2 just denying as much vision, denying the camps, making sure there's as little gold on the map for Giant X as possible.
I mean, from G2, this is a great macro game overall. They really did just punish the positional mistakes from GX, from start to finish. Now they'll start the Baron. A bit ambitious, you could argue, but they know they have the gold advantage. Why not force the fight?
Jackie's going to TP in. Forward across the wall. Han Summit still on the Baron right now. They jump in with the root caller. Immediately they dive onto Juhan. He's pulled back. And in the middle of the redemption, he finds none. Patrick and Ignar forced away by Daisy. The Antonio does still have a flank position.
And the Antonio just went through right as the engage went off. And now G2 back in the pit. The Antonio needs the Poppycopter, but it's still not off cooldown.
I think he jumps forward with the Unbreakable. The Antonio now looking for that flank position. No smite for Giant X. Keeper's verdict only hits onto the support. Patrick kept at bay by Daisy. Magnastorm forward. Maybe Broken Blade will fall, but the Trigger Seed will keep him alive for just a second. Jackie's diving in, trying to take down Han Summer. He flashes and is met with an arrow to the face. The Antonio chased out by Caps. Patrick, the last man standing. There's a tree coming to try and help him out, but so far, Giant X have only been going timber.
It won't be a deathless run for G2, but it's damn near perfection as Giant X fall to the Baron. The Dragon is available for the taking. And I mean, we look back at this. G2 keep it simple. They know that they have the gold lead. They'll just convert it into the team fight. And they, of all the characters to catch, they catch out the enemy jungle, making the Baron that much easier to secure.
It's just perfect timing. They just see the Poppy go across the pit and they're like, wait, it's just 4 versus 5 now. Great, let's look for the engage. And then here, sure you get Mickey, but the knockup comes through into Patrick, which means he's out of the equation. The Antonio just about manages to get Broken Blade there, so it's something, but the cleanup crew is here for G2, and there's very little that Giant X can do.
I think a lot of people expected this sort of result. I think the draft has not done Giant X any favors. The lane squad didn't seem to do them any favors either. But only picking up 1 kill in game 1 is definitely demoralizing. G2 now grouped up as 5, pushing in this bottom side. 24 minutes on the clock. They have a 14,000 gold lead, but no melee minions, so they can't step any closer to this tower yet. It's the small things. You got to find those tiny bits of hope for Giant X, but the next wave is now about to arrive. Control ward in the bush. As Giant X decide, it seems to not engage as G2 push up towards that turret range. The inhibitor, the next target. What are reigning champions? The Antonio brings out the Poppycopter, knocks back 2, they'll go for Yike. The Magnastorm engage into Nature's Grasp, and Yike will fall first. TP behind by Broken Blade, but the rest of G2 are a mile away. Can Broken Blade survive for a year? Yes, he can. Of course he can. He's Cassante. What am I talking about? He could survive on the fountain. For all it's worth right now, Giant X go 1 for 1 in the trade in the end. G2 can still push forward. Han Summer, no flash. Patrick trying to put the damage down across the side, but can't find too much more.
TP flank coming in from the Antonio.
The inhibitor tower is going to be down before he can arrive to the battle. He'll look for Caps, he'll knock him back. Broken Blade goes in, lightning crash from Jackie's. Is it enough? The Antonio already down. Juhan short to follow him. It's a quick trip to an early grave for Giant X. And with the arrow connecting, it might be all done for G2. Only 2 Nexus towers stand in their way, Jackie's and Ignar. It would be a Herculean performance to pull this one off, but so far you'd be more like Sisyphus. Constantly trying to make the plays, but that boulder keeps rolling back down in your face. G2 will close it out. Jackie's and Ignar forced back to the fountain. Jackie's doesn't even find solace there. 18 kills to 2, 26 minutes on the clock, 17,000 gold ahead. I think G2 may be angry today.
That was a demolition from G2. From start to finish, they get the early lead. They refuse to let up. 8 kills onto Hans Sama. Caps eventually decided to get involved in the fights, but he wasn't needed. G2 had it handled the whole way through.
It was a one-sided affair, and Giant are going to have to rapidly go back to the drawing board as we head to a break. We'll see you in a bit for Game 2.
Oh man, I feel like that was my best intro ever.
Yeah, not bad, hey, not bad.
talented.
I can go pro. You know it as well. I also know you can dance. You should join me next time. And yes, I feel like you've also deserved a bit of a break. You've earned it.
Thanks.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Good job.
Hey, thank you.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Let's go, G2.
What the
Now the Antonio looking for a fight.
He's stunned into the wall, has the flash, puts the Ignite down onto the Antonio, who flashes away, as does Ignat. There's the first bit of CC, and Ignat is going to pay for Antonio's dive in with his life, and the Antonio might be soon to follow. Cass has so much free time in the top lane, the lightning crash coming out, Magnet Sword from Ignat as well, but Broken Blade has already found 2 out of the fight, they're going to make it 3. It's a disaster for Giant X, and G2 happily eats up their rewards. I think G2 may be angry today.
You cannot prepare for the G2 army. Indeed, the fans got it right. G2 came in really strong here against GX in game 1. Guys, one word to describe the action and what we just witnessed in front of their eyes.
Bro, they just lost their marbles.
Yeah.
What did I witness? I feel like GX just lost it themselves.
That wasn't one word.
That was a extended.
I feel like we need more.
That was a word combo.
Oh.
I comboed many words for 1 point.
Sorry for the combo breaker.
I feel like we'll come back to the self-destruction part a bit later, but before that, let's talk about the draft. GX on one side, I was expecting them to make a better use of counter picks that they could have available. What did you guys think about the approach they have here? Finn, you had something to say before we
I mean, there's so many top bands going in for this, and then you still end up with a Poppy that only pretty much can block Cassante, because sure, the pop into Cassante in isolation makes a lot of sense, but into Nash, a Smolder and Ivern, you don't really have a lot of tools to impact the game, I feel like. And then they swap her into this bot lane, where she's just suffering by herself the entire game, and I don't see the plan at all.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see the plan, I just don't think it's a great plan.
Yeah.
So the way, like, Aragon's been talking a lot about the 6 pick, then Antonia has been spamming as well in solo queue, and G2 obviously respect that and ban it themselves as well. And you take that into the context of the strategy that GX tried to come through with, where they just swapped Patrick up towards the top side for him to get solo resources, and they probably would have put the 6 bot side for Antonio just to mitigate the pressure from the 2v2. And I think they just came down to a last pick and they said, Antonio, what can you weak side with the best right now? And he said Poppy, and because I don't even know what else comes to mind here, because there's no Poppy value.
But
it just feels like a slam pick.
Even with this in mind, I don't feel like it's the best combo of champions, as we say, to execute what GB just talked about right now, Finn.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the strategy they came in with, I think you explained pretty clearly, it only really makes sense if you think your top laner is going to lose no matter what. That is the only reasoning why I think you're going to go in with the strategy, because you're basically sacrificing all agency on your top laner to funnel a little bit of extra XP to your AD carry. And I think their logic was that eventually they will swap the Ezreal back into the bot lane and play the 2v2, but this just never happened because of the 2v2 kill in the bot lane.
Yeah, I think it says so many things. I think we all anticipated that BB, of course, is a favorite going up against Antonio, but we also know that the GX bot lane has had some high highs, and while on a consistent basis, Handsome and Mickey has probably looked better, I still think coming into a game like this, you want your bot lane to say, yeah, we can 2v2 them, yeah, we can play through it, and I think it really limited them. The fact that also Ignat just had to sit around with a Poppy down in the bot side and not be able to roam the map, where Jackie's was very close as well multiple times to try and get their hand on Caps, but they just weren't able to because there's no one else to assist on that.
Let's look at some specific map movements actually, and what G2 has planned here against GX, because on top of not having the assignment you're wishing to have here, you clearly don't have any room to breathe, Finn.
Yeah, so here GX goes for this dive very late. The Poppy TP comes in very, very late, but they still think the cost sunk fallacy is that they still want to go for the dive. But the reality is that the wave is already dead, and Cassante has all his spells available to block the initial damage, so he takes so much time to die that his team is able to come here and help him clean up this kill. And this just blows the game completely open, because after this, there's a Cassante with 1,000,000 armor on the enemy team, there's a Braum that's just a double kill for some reason, well played to Mickey. And I just feel like this is where the game completely fell apart for GX.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just baffled, right? Because it felt like GX just did all these things to themselves. I don't think, despite how big of a stomp this was from G2, that they did anything special. They just played normal League of Legends, and it was really just GX who was kind of just moving it down. Hello, Miro and Skorky. But anyways...
Maybe, I don't know, we'll see this later.
It's not a sign to come, but I still think it's the fact that I think GX needs to play some normal League of Legends, because even this dive here just screamed desperation. They lost the top tower. Caps just get whatever he wants for free up there. You lose so much of your gold down towards the bot side. It was just a losing play through and through, and not a good thing to go for.
Before resetting for the new game, I would love to have side selection, actually. I don't think I've heard it, but what do red side for GX yet again, so better use of the opportunities they can have. Yeah, look at this. That's a crushing defeat decided within the first 40 minutes of the game. Finn, what do you want to see from GX in game 2?
I just want to see Antonio in a tank in the side lane, and I need you to put more emphasis on Patrick and Jackie. Just give them the jungle ganks, just give them the support roams. Just let top lane be top lane. Like, I don't think Antonio's gonna go so far behind against broken lane. You don't have to do these rocade of something and just put him in the bot lane. Just let him play up there and just play more standardized.
Surely can only improve after a game like this. Lots of things to learn. Even my Apple Pen just doesn't know.
Everything is a chaos.
Anyway, everything is a chaos, and let's send it over to Casters. Take it away, please. I'm out.
Everything's a chaos. Everything's a chaos, it seems. And the only thing that hasn't been chaotic today is G2 winning. You know, it was relatively clean after that dive. They just managed to close out. You okay?
Why are you just leaning on
is this a jealousy thing?
No, it's a winning
That's what's happened.
It's not
Like, oh.
he's a human being, not an armrest.
He leans on me when I feel
he's
sad.
just
And then...
after you beat him on Smash.
Oh, yeah, I did. I beat him in Smash Bros. I played like 5 games in my life.
Unbelievable.
It was about as one-sided as that first game, wasn't it?
That's objectively not true.
I have no proof. I two-stocked Mikkel as well. That's the big one.
Let's jump into the draft. We don't need to leave.
He gets beaten by everyone, though.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about League of Legends.
Let's not overcomplicate it, Giant X. Let's keep it simple. I think that they cooked a little too hard in game 1, and I think they find themselves in a position where they ended up falling short. My biggest concern for Giant X is this macro. I think in the mid game, G2 just has a much greater understanding of how to play the map, and Giant X need to find a solve for this, whether that be creating more chaos, introducing more volatility, trying to force more skirmishes. The problem is that style of play just isn't how we think of Giant X as a team. So I'm fascinated to see how they solve this problem, because G2 were expected to come in as the favorites. They absolutely demolished in game 1, and Giant X need to show something very different here in game 2 to shift that perspective.
On G2 side, they don't have to show anything different, so they're going to stick with the exact same bans we had in the first one. The Arbor going to be taken away, but I still think you go for, I was going to say Ash first pick here with the Braum gone as well. So at least they think, hey, if we get the Maokai Rel trade here, we still have a decent answer into it. So do G2? No, they're not even going to swap it up. So I imagine we'll see the Maokai Rel taken here again.
Definitely makes sense. Braum very good at stopping that sort of engage. Might see G2 having a little bit more engage on their side as well. MF, the lock here though instead. Obviously Braum a counter to that Misfortune ultimate.
I also think it just gives you a slightly stronger bot lane 2 versus 2. They can just secure the Rel. I think this makes sense. Already an effective combo. I'm curious as to how G2 will respond. We haven't seen Melio for a while, but I do think that the pairing can be quite effective into this bot lane 2v2. Whether we will see it, I think Leona is kind of the more meta expected choice, unless they want to go for Alistair, something a little bit more defensive. However, they could lock in Sejuani or something if they want to just get a tanky jungler. G2 have a lot of options.
Maokai will be their
Also
tank
Maokai,
jungle.
yeah.
Can be played support, but don't... I mean, you can actually into the Rel knock her out of her crash down with Bramble Smash with the Q. So it's a possibility. We haven't seen it as much recently.
I would imagine they'll probably take something for Caps here, because it's...
Ooh, Poppy support.
Gonna be Poppy support, because I was about to say, you have the Poppy as well, and you can go for a ton of options like Leona, Poppy, Alistair, that all do well into Rel. So I thought they'd leave support till that next rotation and try and secure Caps a good matchup, but...
I mean, they could still have left support for that next rotation. Broken Blade does play a lot of Poppy as well, so it might just be a multi-role flex option. Ornn, the likely pick here for Giant X, put the Antonio on something he's very comfortable on. You've already got rid of the Braum, so you know you're going to have a little bit more long-range, non-committal engage, which seems to be the name of the game in a lot of League of Legends, especially in the LEC right now.
Now, you would expect the Aatrox to come out as a ban. Maybe even the Cassante to follow if they want to try and mitigate Broken Blade's options in the top lane. Remember that Broken Blade has a very deep champion pool, so there's all sorts of crazy stuff that he could come up with depending on the direction that G2 want to go. If they want a little bit more range, they could consider something like Jace, they could do Renekton. So I won't delve too deep. Meanwhile, G2 going to look to ban out some jungle options. Lily are going to be taken away. Sejuani might be the next champion to follow to kind of put some pressure on Juhan as to what he can bring out in that role. Notice that a lot of G2's focus has actually been on Juhan, with the Nidalee taken away, the Vi as well. I think that it does make sense when we think about Juhan as a player, kind of the quiet carry of the roster, a large responsibility of being able to make things happen for the team. As Giantx going to round out their second ban phase with an Azir.
Give me the Amumu ban. I want it to happen because I think it's a good setup here. I mean, Curse the Stab Bullet Time is available. You've got already you kind of want that AP jungler here as well, and then you just end up with counterpick for Jackies in the mid lane, but maybe tending away from the tanks here.
An AP threat in the jungle would make sense as well. We did, as you say, see the Lilia band away already. Talia kind of fits that role for Giantx, but it looks like it might be the brand, which does make me sad because it would have been. Oh, Karthus?
You're falling for the... Why? Hovers, Medic.
Karthus?
You know this.
Brand, there we are. Because I would have liked the Call of the Sad Bullet Magnet Storm.
I see.
Which would have been the full name of that combination, right? Because you've got Call of the Forge, got everything else.
No.
But instead now, we have the Call of the Pyroclasmic Magnet Bullet Time. Because Pyroclasm is Brand's ultimate.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, I get
I'm expecting both of you to shout that in the middle of team fights.
I might go acronyms instead, you know, just go with that.
Yone! Okay, now I'm assuming that this Yone is going top, but we know that Corki top is something that Broken Blade had to deal with last week when playing against MDK. So I wonder if he is going to be bringing that champion out. But strong scaling on the side of G2. They have a strong side lane option and something that... well, the analyst desk has consistently talked about when it comes to playing against Giantx is their composition style is very exploitable. And Yone is a great example of being able to exploit them. A strong side lane threat that no one can really match, because you look at Giantx's composition and you say, who can go against Yone when he's at 3 items in a side lane, right? And it's a win condition that G2 will always have in their back pocket if things don't go right in the early game.
Also gives them a little bit more damage across the entire team. If that was a tank, you only have the Corki and the Ashe, predominantly physical damage. He only does do quite a lot of magic damage with his passive, so even though he is, you know, mostly physical damage, you do split that up just a little bit.
I think it also just gives G2 a huge amount of threat for side lanes, which is going to be super nice because essentially you got push in mid, push on boss. You should, well, eventually that push on bot. So you're going to be in a position where you should be able to start to set up for early objective control around Dragon. And then when you get to the later portion of the game, just take towers in lieu of giving those Dragons across to Giantx and trying to avoid the team fight, because Giantx are terrifying in a full-on 5v5. So I think it'll be on G2 to get early leads and then try and dissuade any sort of engage coming through.
Well, Giantx have definitely changed things up a little bit. Carry jungler for Juhan, something we don't often get to see from him. And it'll complement their team fighting abilities nicely. They've got a great wombo combo. Medic has already named it Call of the Pyroclasm Magnet Bullet Time.
Yeah, but we need True Shot Barrage in there now as well.
Okay, well, you can cook on that. But the point is that a 5v5 is something that they will want to get. So let's see if they can get to that point, or if G2 can bring us to 2-0.
That is the question. G2 dominant in Game 1, Giantx. Changing things up a little bit in Game 2, still on the red side, but bringing the AP jungle out for Juhan. But what you guys have to remember is if you're a master of the Rift and if you never miss a game, Santander's here to reward you. Head over to santandergaming.com to win weekly and monthly rewards like Hextech chests and skins. This week's code is Legend15. That's Legend15.
I can't say if that is correct or not because my German's not that good.
Yeah, it's correct, yeah. Although I think Sin would be better because the Z has more of a T's at Sin.
The person who's German you can't trust is Hysterics.
So that's very
not
true.
Trust him at all, no matter what he tells
Hysterics
you.
has is that sometimes he just tries to speak German and Chinese comes out.
Yeah. I had that a bunch in high school because I did Spanish in middle school, and then I submitted, I had to do high school French for like IB, and I submitted a paper, and my teacher looked at it and said, "What on earth is muy caliente?" And I was like, "I'm really sorry, I just went into Spanish."
Do you know what the most evil thing that they do for the Leaving Cert in Ireland is? They have both of your speaking tests for your Irish and for your German or your Spanish or your French, whatever you're learning, the next day.
Oh.
So you have to just like reprogram your brain right into the entire other language that you don't speak.
Well, I think you're meant to be able to speak the language. That's kind of the point of learning in school, but we'll see if Giant X can speak a different language than they did in Game 1. Changed up the draft a little bit. Looks like Juhan actually went for a Razor Beak into blue clear here. Gets the level 2, will be able to stack his passive, assuming he took the ability haste shard.
Might be looking for a fast level 3, then look for something like a gank bot. We'll see what he cooks up here as Yike just leisurely clears through his jungle. We're going to start on the top side, pathing towards bot. Broken Blade already going to get a bit of push towards the top side of the map. Mid, back and forth, Corki, Ezreal, nothing too crazy. But this bot side of the map is the interesting one.
Oh.
It's not going to spot him out.
So it spots that the blue was done, and then a question mark ping comes onto the Gromp, and then an answering ping from G2 on the Razor Beaks. So I think G2 might be a little confused as to exactly where Juhan is right now with the Hawk shot.
They should be able to determine, because they saw red and they saw Krug, so with the Raptors gone, and with blue gone, they're like, he has to be bot side right now, right? So I don't know if they're going to do much with that information, though. Keep track of Broken Blade. He's going to drop a ward. He's going to confirm the information for G2 right now. He's going to move in, drop a ward on Krugs, and now, unless Juhan does something sneaky, while the cheetah recall comes through from Broken Blades, nothing too crazy going to happen. Jackie's already very low on mana. Did just pop a biscuit to get some of that back. But
and he'll level up in a couple of minions as well.
2 pushing lanes now for G2. Of course, on the Maokai, we've seen Yike use Maokai to do some crazy stuff in the early game, but against a brand, he's saying, you know what, I'm not going to risk that, not going to play with that too much, not going to play with fire, as the old adage goes.
Mm-hmm. If you'd done it, if you said it on the first line, I would be much more impressed than building yourself into it, then realizing there was a good joke there.
Joke is just very helpful advice. Don't play with fire.
Or run with scissors, you know.
Or run with scissors. Which is crazy because
is this the level of knowledge we feel the audience
We have Brand
needs?
and Gwen.
Yeah,
I feel like the League of Legends is giving very mixed signals. Perhaps the argument is unless you're a trained professional.
Yeah, none of us are trained professionals, and I'm allowed to play Gwen. So.
I was going to say, it's impressive that Gwen got her license in professional scissor running so quickly when she became a doll.
For the moment, though, much ado about nothing on the Rift. You can see Broken Blade, as you say, got that cheetah recall off, just pushed out the wave and then reset. He's gone for a cull. Jackies and Caps constantly trading in the mid lane. Caps steps to the side of the Mystic shot. Still hits with a Phosphorus bomb. The wave is pushing in towards him. Yike is clearing through his Gromp, but spotted on vision as well.
For Caps, though, he does have the fleet footwork and an extra biscuit in pocket, though. So with Jackie's not being able to finish this off, you can see it's Caps who's now starting to outpace him when it comes towards the health bar. So maybe a little bit of a tension from Yike in towards that mid lane may not go astray, but we'll have to see if that's going to be the plan. It looks like Juhan might even be coming across here to cover for that potential play.
Both the junglers have been tracked really well on vision throughout this entire early game. Looks like Jackie's is just going to back Juhan. Well, you can't start the Drake because it's not up for 4 seconds time, but now he's walking back towards his Gromp. His bot lane has just reset as well. Ignite working his way out on the map, and it looks like it is going to be an early Drake here from Giant X.
I do like the thought process from Giant X. Jackie's is now reset, Caps hasn't, so you can try and take that away. Because one of the things I think Giant X's win con is forcing fights at this dragon in the later portion of the game. By getting in and stacking them earlier, it means that G2 can operate less on the map and are forced to take that fight earlier. And I think for G2, they would have liked to kind of build that timing window where they had 10 minutes, say, before they really had to fight at a dragon and could trade for turrets on side. But I think you're going to find Ignar. We'll just back away.
I think Ignar was setting up in case someone, tried to walk through the gate where he's just walked through that little funnel point, because then he could flank them and perhaps you can find someone. But in the end, it doesn't really manage to enact anything there. Mickey checking the bushes. Jackie's down to about half HP as Broken Blade hits level 6. Will unbind his soul and then snap back to reality, as he has just got that slight advantage on the Antonio in topside.
Oh, there goes Captain. He's moving over towards Void Grubs. He's going to be able to steal these away as well. So nice set up here for G2 in the early stages of the game.
Mom spaghetti.
I was like, how long are those two going to keep just saying Eminem lyrics?
At least mine was game relevant originally. Also, yeah, you're the rapper amongst us, Betty. I've had your Christmas gifts. They're very well wrapped.
It's almost as good as my Gwen joke from yesterday.
Oh, true.
Caps in some trouble.
Yeah, Juhan's there, lands the stun, doesn't quite get the passive down, but Caps, even with a flash, dodges the Mystic Shot, is able to just survive. Yike coming in from the side as well. I'm not sure he wants much more of this. He does manage to land onto Jackie's, who still has a flash. Yike now hits the level 6 off the minions, but he's going to die to the Pyroclasm. Juhan takes the kill, Yike overstepping.
I'm surprised that he thought he had the damage to win that. I mean, yeah, fair play to Yike. Yeah, I respect the ambition, I guess. The strategy was good, but yeah, just not enough damage on the Maokai. And Giant say, okay, sure, we'll take first blood. Goes over to the Brand. Small advantage gained, and honestly, just a nice punish on the Caps, who didn't expect Juhan to be on that topside brush. They find a nice stun. They get the summoner out from him. And Giant X now with a very small lead. Well, actually, no, they're still overall behind, but their jungler at the very least finds himself in a good spot.
Yeah, it looked like Yike expected Caps to be able to follow up, but with how low he is, I really don't think Caps was in a position to do so. So it means that Giant X will at least get one off the back of that. So something going their way in the early stages, but it is still a 1k gold lead in favor of G2. And Yike not having that ultimate down, now it might lead to a little bit more activity, let's say, from Juhan, where he might be able to try and use the fact he's just ticked over to 6 to find advantages in towards bot lane, which is where he's positioned at the moment.
Most of that lead for G2 is on Broken Blade in the top lane. It has been a 1v1, basically in isolation for much of the game. And the issue for the Antonio is you can get a Bramble Vest, you can try and negate some of the healing coming out of the Yone, but it doesn't help with his auto attacks. 50% of those auto attacks are magic damage, scaling off your AD as well. So even if you build, armor to try and deal with the physical damage in the lane from the rest of his skills, you're still going to be getting chunked out by that magic damage. Ignore 6 here.
There's a great ward in the bot side jungle of G2. I think it might have just spotted out Mickey. And if you end up spotting, the support roaming towards mid, I think you can open up for some of these flash plays on towards Ham Sam if you overstage, because this is something G2 do a lot, which is have Mickey reset very early and try and get him out onto the map first. But it does leave Ham Sam vulnerable at times with Patrick.
Has to use the cleanse.
Nasty trade there. Patrick really couldn't do much about it.
Yeah, Patrick's dead. He's got the flash, but Mickey will knock him into the wall, and then with a hail of blades and a hammer shot combo, Mickey takes the kill.
Patrick did have the flash, but even if he did, I don't know if he was getting away from that. He kind of had to flash it perfectly so that as the E came in, he could flash away, but yeah, that was always going to be an ambitious thing to be able to do. So G2 equalized the kills. But I think the bigger problem for Giant X is, once again, Hansam has just had free reign on this tower. He secures himself a plate. He's now in a very healthy gold lead. Top, as you already mentioned, in the same position. So even though Juhan gets a little bit accelerated after securing that first blood, you look at the atomization, still very similar. Giant X now find themselves overall behind in this early game.
Very early lane swap from Giant X as well. I feel like you should do this for, white grubs that are coming up, but you're still 40 seconds away from that. So you can actually try and match that if you really want to. It looks like Phoebe can even stick around here. But yeah, I think they're just a little early on this, because you're going to get the push on boss. Then G2 can even walk up and try and contest, or they just steal the dragon for themselves on bottom side. So I think it's a bit of an unusual play here from Giant X.
So I think they want to try and contest G2 from getting 6 grubs. Obviously 6 grubs with a Yone in a side lane later on will just melt through towers, but as you say, you give up pressure around that dragon towards the bottom side. It is very early from them as well. G2 are able to get the push through mid, and Broken Blade happy to accept this wave a little bit further back and isn't really at any threat from Patrick and Ignar.
It's also because G2 can kind of play with 4 1/3 man as well, because Hansam's ultimate is going to be up, but the Antonio doesn't have the luxury of his teleport. So when G2 take these fights, an Ash Arrow from downtown right up through river could end up catching people out. Looks like that's what G2 might try and play for here.
Giant X currently grouped up around those grubs. Broken Blade has the ability to jump in. There's the ammo. Oh, just in the gap. Nature's Grass coming out as well. Ignar tanks it up for the moment. Jackie's putting some damage down, but Broken Blade dives in, and Ignar almost dies. Yike flashes for him, can't quite get him. Mickey down to half HP as well. Yike going back in with a twisted advance, but he's been abandoned by the rest of G2, and the flash forward was a flash to his demise. Giant X find one.
Feels like Yike just separated in the thought process from the rest of the team. Tried to get the kill, but only put themselves in harm's way, and Giant now get not only the kill, but will get those boy grubs off the back of us.
Misexecution on the fight, or maybe just a miscalculation is a better word for it, because Ignar, he just tanks so much, and he's able to get away, and then Yike flashes after him, at the very least trying to get that kill. But now G2 kind of run out of juice. They have nothing left to follow up with the rest of the fight, which means the Giant X is actually able to turn around, get a kill, and deny the grub stacking for G2.
But it's not the first time, even in this, well, in general, but in this game, we've seen Yike a bit separated from what the rest of the team's thought process was, because the ult goes wide, and this looks like a decent start here for Giant X. Mickey trying to zone off as Broken Blade goes in onto Ignar, but can't quite get the kill as the flash away. But now they're completely separated, because BB had to go back to the Soul Unbound. Mickey was too low to follow up, and Caps was never really in a position to follow in towards that fight. You can see there. Annoyance his own face as well.
Yep. Bit of a struggle for Yike over the last couple of weeks. Magnet Storm onto Mickey here, catches him out. He'll flash across the wall, but that miscoordination is something we have seen from G2 and something specifically we've seen from Yike over this season finals. Against MDK, he really struggled to have an impact in the game. Part of that obviously is in most of the drafts, he didn't have pushing lanes, and it's much harder as a jungler to impact the map early on if your lanes aren't there to help you. But I think calling attention to the fact that Yike's been struggling isn't doing him a disservice.
I very much agree. Game one, I think he played very well, but highlighting that he has been a little bit disconnected. Either way, I think in that fight specifically, that wasn't entirely his fault, to his credit, but mainly because he was following up the criticism you would throw is the follow-up flash onto Ignar, right, to try and help secure that kill, because once you flash in, even if you get that kill, what happens next, right? Yeah, it's something that we'll have to keep track of, because I think that Yike, he came on to G2 with a lot of pressure on his shoulders, having to fill the role of Jankos, a tried and tested and veteran player in the seed. But I think he filled those shoes very well last year, and the expectations and responsibilities are very, very high. So when, of course, you do make those mistakes, there is a big magnifying glass on it, especially when G2 is expected to represent Europe at Worlds this year.
I mean, they will represent Europe.
Yes, of course.
Already have at least a third seed guaranteed. They fall out of the bracket now. It will be just the 2 finalists in Munich joining them. If G2 make it further, perhaps it will be our top 3. Basically, if G2 get one of our top 3 spots, then the other 2 teams in the top 3 will join them. And if they don't, only our top 2 will go.
Broken Blade is the player with the biggest lead on G2 right now. This Yone, a very effective answer into the Yawn. With the Blade of the Ruin King completed, he has some very serious kill threat in that matchup as well.
I think the first time being complete across the board is a good setup for G2 here.
They look for the engage, the arrow going down as well, and Juhan is locked up and doesn't have a moment to breathe before he dies. Ignar will follow suit as G2 find 2.
I mean, the coordination that we criticized G2 before 4, that was a great example of it. Just very well executed, the Hex Flash from Mickey.
Jackie's can buffer the Arcane Shift away. The Antonio, is his fate sealed here? I don't quite think so. Broken Blade will dash back to the Soul Unbound.
Good timing window from G2 to punish as they're going to look for Jackie's again. Knock
Jackie
up,
still has
can't get to the
flash
wall.
here. Arcane Shift's away. Mickey falls first. Flash away, but Caps is there for the chase. And find a couple of autos will put Jackie's in his place. G2 playing all over the map as Broken Blade continues to dive the Antonio on the bottom side. The Rift Herald secured as well. The Antonio trying to flash away. Broken Blade snaps back. And we'll get some more damage on this tower as the Antonio has to limp to safety. Tower in the top lane falls. G2 find 3 kills.
Things are very quickly falling out of Giant X's hands. They had some promising opportunities in the early game, but G2 very quickly taking control over the map.
Yeah, it's been a little bit all over the joint, I will say, but still G2 are starting to get that control. Now pushing in towards mid lane. Have Mickey just waiting off on the sides here to make sure he's off fine if Jackie's does try to go forward on this, but Hans should, there you go, just finish off the tower.
Yeah, a couple of minutes ago it was a 1,000 gold lead for G2. It's now about 6,000, just over 5. So we'll see this engage again.
I mean, the coordination was great there. Mickey catches out Juhan. He then gets followed up with the Asho, followed up by the Maokai ultimate, and then Caps was like, yeah, I've got the damage. I can help out there. And just great coordination from G2 overall to punish Giant X on the setup. They ended up conceding the Herald, which didn't end up being used to secure that mid tower. I'm a little surprised that they sent Broken Blade back towards top. I would have thought that they would keep him bot just because of how hard he's winning in the side lane, and that tower is just sure to fall, but I guess they trust in Caps to be able to chip away at it more reliably just because he's that ranged champion. Ultimately, G2 have the freedom to kind of do whatever they want given the lead that they have.
Yeah, and BB has TP for the Dragon in a minute and a half as well, so you're going to get that side lane pressure and should be able to try and keep that pressure up on this bottom half of the map as well. Nikki just hovering off to the side here, trying to see if he can get into position, but yeah, I think Jackie's going to be able to clear this out, so won't get the tower before that objective spawns, but I still think they should be able to push in and get some vision control in River before the Dragon spawns.
Now remember that G2 don't even have to win this game through team fighting. If they really want to play this super cleanly, they would avoid giving Giant X a 5v5 ever. Just use your Yone to win the game a side lane alone. Create that constant point of pressure and then maybe TP in to create a numbers advantage, force a pick, maybe fight 4v4 without the Ornn there. They have a lot of options as long as they can utilize Broken Blade effectively.
I think alongside that, you have a 2,000 gold lead on Caps and 1.3k on Hansama, right? So even if you do end up taking a team fight, it's likely to go in G2's favor. The only threat really is Juhan, who has that Pyroclasm and the Liandry's. Antonio struggling in the top lane, even under the safety of his tier 2. He's down to half HP, just trying to deal with Broken Blade.
And GX are going to be drawn around the map now. You have a Rift Tower that could potentially go mid and take a tier 2, or you can put that pressure onto the bottom side, and Giant X looking to try and defend the bot lane play. Now, with the Antonio resetting, opens up Broken Blade to just take that turret in the top side. The lane is just not going well for Giant X. It's really starting to hurt them.
G2 will step away a little bit as Broken Blade starts to chip away at the top tier 2. Now they see the Antonio. They've ceded a little bit of pressure in that bot side river. Giant X have been able to walk in with Juhan and Ignar, but can't really step too much further as Caps gets the wave shoved in once again. Broken Blade now backing. I wonder if he's got his next completed item, 2,500 gold ahead in that top lane. He decides not to finish his recall and jumps back onto the Antonio for a little bit more chip damage.
I think the G2 playing this smartly, patiently. Hansama continues to get the push in mids. Corki just clears waves faster than Ezreal does, so you push in bot lane faster than he can, and every time you get 1 or 2 autos onto the bot lane tower, slowly chipping away at it. And Giant X, there's nothing for them to cross map, because Yone completely owns top lane. He doesn't just own top lane, like, you have to pay rent to even visit top lane. Like, it's crazy how much agency this Yone gives in this matchup, and it all comes back to what the AD was talking about, what we've talked about for Giant X. Their formula for draft is very predictable, and if you have the depth of champion pool to punish it, this is exactly what you can run into.
And it's unfortunate that Giant X just don't feel comfortable to try and punish on the map state, right? Broken Blade is continuously on that top end, but they end up not moving up towards the top side, instead continuously trying to contest on towards Dragon. So they kind of just watch bot lane disappear, watch Dragon disappear, watch the health bar on that top start to dwindle as well. So it feels like GX, they need to find something to start these plays off, but G2 are just never grouped up in a manner that gives them that chance.
Yeah, I will say, in a meta where AD carries kind of dominates, the superstar playmaking agency, I would argue, is taken away. You think about like a Zia, Orianna, Syndra, these mages have the ability to change the game off a single play.
Nico as well for Jackies was a huge thing.
That's another great example. But when you're in an AD carry meta, I do think that in situations like this where you kind of feel the game slipping out of your hands, the ability to take the game into your own hands becomes a lot harder. Just because you don't have those playmaking tools.
But I think that's what GX are trying to do now with the playmakers.
Magnustorm immediately onto Mickey. He tries to jump back in, but Giant X have found a pick. Ignar going in, as you say, that playmaking potential finally coming to the fore for Giant X.
And that's exactly what I want to see Giant X do. You drop a wave on top, sure, you'll lose a couple of creeps, but you find that pick, you find a little bit more of that tempo to slow down G2. This tower will unfortunately die because of the Rift Tower on the top side, but you can at least try and defend now against Broken Blade because you've got numbers advantage on the map.
Broken Blade for a second there, I think, was debating whether he takes the Rift Tower out, tries to charge away. Juhan is closing in on him. Mortal Steel is going to do a little bit of damage as Juhan falls to half HP. Broken Blade dashing in, but he can't land the Q3. Juhan down to about 250 HP. Call of the Forge God coming out. Broken Blade will step to the side of it, but they still manage to lock him down for a second. The True Shot Barrage coming out as well in the end. Broken Blade falls to the blaze. Juhan takes him, but Mickey, Flash Ignite, and a buckler to the back is enough enough to kill the brand.
I love that Giant X are trying to force these plays on the map. They get a good pick onto Mickey. They are able to punish Broken Blade on the top side, but G2's not the type of team that will just let you get away with that for free. They secure the bot tier 2. They're keeping constant push in mid. Look at Mickey, immediately back out onto the map, and he's controlling it with vision. Giant X promising ideas, optimistic ways in trying to get back into the game, but unfortunately, in terms of control, every time they make a play like this, they just concede more of it.
I think one of the major issues is against a team like G2 and the way G2 have been playing today is they don't give you the windows that other teams in the LEC would give you. Like Giant X groups around bot side, G2 were looking at a possible dive onto Jackie's. It's like, well, if you go for that play, Giant X would have reacted well and they would have been able to shut you down and maybe get a couple of kills. But G2 have just played it so patiently, and Giant X are probably feeling a little bit burnt from the last time they tried to tower dive this series, where they all died as they went for that Cassante on the bot tier 1.
I think it's also just the trying to do too much with the time they have. They got the play on towards the pick. Just back away then, get your lanes out, push them out, take it slow, and then try and slowly look for another window of opportunity like that again. But instead they just try to get this big sweep back into the game off that one pick, and G2 are still strong enough that they're able to punish on a sideline to get that back. So the ideas are there for Giant X, it's just the next step. They just need to slow down on and not get too hypey.
Well, turning it down to half HP as Caps chases him in. Valkyrie's away from the knockup. Mickey thanking the Baron, as I believe it was Juhan who aggroed it, and Mickey being in the pit takes about half his health, but Broken Blade has a lot of free time with a bot lane tier 3. Almost a 3,000 gold lead for him as well. Immortal Shield Bow and the Blade of the Ruined King already complete.
I mean, look at Caps. He's a full item ahead of Jackie's. And now the round's being started, and why not? G2 again can just play with their wallets, force Giant X to come into them. Juhan is in the area.
Giant X have done a good job of getting a ward just outside of the pit. On both the Baron plays, they have had vision of it being started, even though G2 have tried to be sneaky around it. And now with the TP coming in, the Antonio has the Call of the Forge God. Jackie's is yeeted the hell out of there. Call of the Forge God lands a double round knock-up, but the Baron's already secured. And Giant X can't find the engage. No flash on Ignar makes it very tricky for them to get in. Oh, they go back in, flash forward by Yike, but immediately he dies. Broken Blade, can he steal some fates here? Dashes back with the Soul Unbound, and Giant X have a man advantage. Juhan still has his ultimate, the Pyroclasm a possibility. In the end, the Baron goes over to G2, but Yike does fall.
I thought that G2 had kind of gotten away with it. Patrick spent a ton of time wandering back and forth around the edge of the pit, seeing if he could get that big setup with the ultimate, but just couldn't really get the follow-up. So G2 managed to step away, but Yike going that bit too far forward, and now Giant X again will get another dragon for themselves.
Sole point for Giant X, whether they can survive 5 minutes further to get towards that Ocean Soul, and whether they'll be in a position to fight it at that time still remains a question. Hans Summer flashing forward underneath the turret. Juhan caught out down towards the bottom side as well. G2 find 2 more, and now Giant X with a numbers disadvantage on this Baron push. The wave shoving in, Broken Blade trying to dodge away with the Magnet Sword coming in. The True Shot Barrage has connected as well. Broken Blade dashes back in. The fate sealed on Jackie won't give him enough of a shield to get the kill in response. Broken Blade dies. G2 will take a tier 3 in mid and a tier 3 in bot.
Giant X doing what they can to get something back, a foothold into this game, but G2 will not give them a moment's breath. They secured the mid inhibitor, they set their sights on the bot one, but they don't want to overstay their way. Welcome, Ignar and Antonio are here. The Ornn ultimate, I believe, is almost off cooldown. It won't be available before G2 choose to reset. The damage has been done, the base is in tatters. That's a 10k gold difference once again, 25 minutes in, and every time Giant X find these small advantages, it feels like G2 just find an even bigger one.
Yeah, they're just rinsing them the second that Giant X think they can take a sigh of relief. And now you've got mid and bot tower down. Realistically, you can just stick Broken Blade down there to take that bot inhibitor. It's kind of a false equivalency that it's still standing, and then you get to move up towards this top end with the rest of G2 and put pressure onto the last remaining inhibitor turret. This feels, again, a very dire straits for Giant X in this game.
It's like if, you know, Giant X, if David and Goliath.
Sure.
But if the Goliath won.
If it went the way you expected.
Which is ironic, given their name, you know what I mean?
Good one.
You can tell that I'm not the witty one of the
No, you are
combo.
witty. It's just that the puns tend to escape you slightly. As this game has escaped Giant X. Which is what we can put through their name after this series, as they will be out of contention. That was a Giant X pun.
No, I got it.
Yeah.
No, cool. Very clever.
Nature's Cross coming out as his Cap's in the bottom lane. He's the one with TP, so he's the one who'll be resigned to playing PvE for the moment. Inhibitor Tower in the top lane falling, a 10,000 gold lead for G2. Cleanse away from Hans Summer to get away from the slow, and it does enough for him to escape. But Caps opens up on the Nexus towers, and Giant X realize they got to defend two fronts at once. G2 push in once again. The Baron expired on them, but they have super minions pushing in bot and mid, and shortly you have to feel to have them in top as well. Caps keeping two waves shoved at once. Jackie's trying to answer him. There's still a whole item disparity between those two mid laners. Mickey stepping forward. Call of the Forge God not available for the Antonio, but the Magnet Storm is for Ignar. Keeper's Verdict out by Mickey. The Inhibitor Tower falls. G2 start to retreat. Jackie's unable to join his team as of yet, and no real engage available for Giant X means that G2 can just walk away.
I think what else is there really to say? Yeah. I feel like that this game can be summarized in terms of just a draft advantage that G2 was able to find, and they play through their lanes very well. But the kills are deceptive to how the game has really played out, because even though Giant X have been able to find picks, this has really just kind of been a macro situation where G2 have played through their side lanes, played through their push, and they've just had better map control and objective focus. So now with the base in tatters, Giant X are basically relying on not one, probably not even two. They're going to need three amazing back-to-back fights to be able to turn this game around.
And I think it's a good indication of how important it is to look for cross maps, look for plays, because G2 consistently, it's, oh, you are on Dragon Coup, we're going to put pressure on towards the top side. We're going to look to get Broken Blade ahead. Oh, you're on a position where you're looking at Void Grubs, we're going to look for a potential dive onto bot lane and controlling the map in that way. Whereas for Giant X, they've kind of just been watching what G2 are up to, trying to decide, hey, can we actually fight this? And by the time they come to a decision, it's usually too late. G2 have already gotten out scot-free, and now this game, it looks like it's going to end in G2's favor once more.
Double supers in the top lane. Be joined by their comrades in mid. TP away from the Antonio. Realized as he was going to be collapsed on. Keeper's Verdict coming out. Nature's Grasp hits one. Juan able to dodge away from it. And Mickey's already down to 200 HP. The All of the Force God hits the backline. Pyroclasm there to follow it up. And Hans Summer might die, and in the blaze he does. The dive in from Broken Blade won't be enough to keep Giant X at bay. The Antonio face plants the wall, and Giant X will get one kill. They still have to try and delay the game. The Nexus Tower is the target of these minions. One has already fallen. G2 can continue to push up. Mickey doesn't have a Warmog, so won't heal up on this Poppy. The Giant X hold on to hope in the game.
The Soul in 3 seconds as well. I don't know how quickly they can deal with these creeps and get out. You have a TP from Jackie's, none for the Antonio, so looks like it won't be the case. G2 will be able to at least get the Dragon on the way back out, but yes, you get a kill, but you're already losing in Nexus turrets as well. It's still kind of G2 slowly closing this game out.
Hey, if you want to be cup half full, you've bought yourself a few more minutes to farm. And getting a shutdown onto the Ashe is definitely gold that you'll be happy to grab. Ultimately, I think this was an overforce. You'll see how much damage Mickey takes before the fight even starts off, turning it into a 4v5. The chain CC comes down onto Hans Summer. Nice stun connects from Juhan with a great stopwatch to follow up. He just executed that play very well. But now the Baron is back alive, and Giant X, unfortunately, the downside of having all of this quote-unquote free farm is that it does mean that you don't really have any control over the map, making it hard to contest this objective.
Nice attempt from Jackie's to see if he can steal it away, but not quite the case. And now, Baron up creeps. At least the mid inhibitors respawn, Silver Linings, but can they find a pick to try and push G2 back?
You really need a miracle. You need something truly, truly special in this position to get back in the game. Pyroclasm up, Call of the Forge got 4 seconds away. Haven't really seen the bullet time combo that many times this game. The mid inhib respawned. Patrick stepping quite far forward here. Broken Blade having that fate sealed. It's a little bit precarious of a situation to be in. Giant X trying to clear out the wave. There's the call of the Forge God from behind. The Antonio found the flank. They get onto Cabs and they'll shut him down. Mickey the next target for Patrick, and on the backline, the stopwatch will stop the face seal from coming out. Bullet timing invested by Patrick, but Hans Summer's already killed off the brand. Patrick tries to open up, but he's got a 2-level disadvantage, and a big disadvantage when it comes to HP as well. It looked hopeful for a second for Giant X, but G2 will wipe them away. You can take Caps, but you cannot take the win. 2-0, G2.
Confident play from G2 once more. The combo could not work for Giant X, and G2 just play out smarter on the map and make sure they keep control of this game.
Ultimately, just the macro difference, I think, is on full display right now. G2 know how to play the mid-game, better lane assignments. They know how to play through their pushing lanes as well. Think about how difficult it was for Giant X to even cross-map with Broken Blade, creating so much pressure on the side lane.
It really was. We'll see if Giant X can bounce back in Game 3 right after this.
The road in itself is crazy already from the beginning. I was in Czech League and I had even a contract for the next year there, and I never expected to be here right now. I haven't really performed much on big stages yet. I've performed max against 5k people, which is not enough for Munich, as I heard, so I have no idea. It's gonna be a new thing for me. It's for sure exciting and a bit nerve-wracking, but I kinda enjoy the nerves in a way. For me, it's like a healthy thing, because when I am under pressure, I tend to focus a bit more. We can be one of the surprises in the tournament, and I also think MDK can surprise. And the fact that I'm able to get to season finals with a roster that we changed in summer as well is a really crazy feeling. So I'm just excited what comes next.
Hey, Law.
Yeah?
I need a bit of help with styling since I'm new here, and I was wondering if I could show you a couple of outfits.
Yeah, sure.
Amazing, thank you so much. I'll be right back. I'm a Poro snack. Get it?
I don't know, man. No, not really.
I don't know, Law. It's hopeless.
No, it's gonna be fine. Here, let's have a break.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Back to the drawing board then, I guess.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Hey, shouldn't you be on stage right now?
Hey, you got a pick. Tom Kent?
What? I was not expecting this.
And a crazy off-meta pick that secured you the win. How did you come up with it?
I just listened to my gut.
still has a flash. Yike now hits the level 6 off the minions, but he's gonna die to the Pyroclasm. Broken Blade will step to the side of it, but they still manage to lock him down for a second. The True Shot Barrage coming out as well in the end. Broken Blade falls to the place. Juhan takes him, but Mickey, Flash Ignite. At that time, still remains a question. Summer flashing forward underneath the turret. Juhan caught out down towards the bottom side as well. G2 find 2 more. It looked hopeful for a second for Giant X, but G2 will wipe them away. You can take caps, but you cannot take the win. 2-0, G2.
2-0 indeed, as G2 leads the series here and gives us the first match point of this elimination series first. And I do have the feeling that it's not on the right way to not be the last match point. GX not doing great here at all. It was better than the first game, if I may say, still, but not quite enough still.
The bar is in hell. No, but that was a pretty rough series or game by them. I feel like so much went wrong for them. The top lane was just such a big pressure point for G2. They couldn't really get through that. John was just winning, and the bot matchup as well was super hard. And they really had no lights in this great darkness that is G2.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be so hard to bounce back in a situation like that because it's falling apart everywhere, right? Like, I think Jackie's had that nice play on top side, but even then he's trading 1-for-1 with a support for a mid laner. It's just not working out for them, and it's so rough for GX in this situation. But G2, they're just stomping.
Yeah, so hear me out, right? Like, trying to cook a potential solution for the doom, right?
Put on the apron.
Yeah, so top lane's going to lose no matter what. No matter what you do, Antonio's going to lose, so just completely sack it and keep doing what you're doing. But drafting away, maybe go to blue side if you're Giant X, that gives Patrick some more agency, because I think this Ashe pick is really problematic. I don't like that they keep giving Ashe over, giving Handsummer essentially a free lane. I thought maybe they'd even draft a Jhin and flex MF to mid to make that lane phase better for Patrick, but at the very least, set up one of your side lanes for success, because right now they're bleeding out too much.
I mean, we talk about the draft here, but I do feel like even from the setups that they take in game, they don't have the same confidence, and they're not on the same page the way they found success earlier this season. So let's take a look at some early plays here, guys, to see what went wrong, what they could have done better, how they could have positioned better maybe, because it usually goes from the early plays to grab the neutral objectives on top side that don't really go well for GX.
Yeah, and I really just want Ignor to have more agency, because I feel like he's always getting pushed in every single game. Here we see the fight at Grubs, where the Malk ult actually went wide, and this was the only good fight for GX, because they try to go on Ignor, and they actually based him in super well. Malka goes for the flash Q, but actually keeps his flash until the end, and they actually get one kill here. But this is the last good play we saw of GX entire game, because after this it was just a slight descent until madness.
And even then, I think this is one of those situations where they find some avenues in the game by having a misplay by G2 that they're able to punish, but even then they're still falling behind, right? The lanes are still behind because they just individually are not matching up to them, and it's just not enough only finding a few kills at an objective. You need more for them, you need lanes to play through, and I think it's the lack of that I'm missing for GX right now.
Yeah, it's definitely the individual agency. I completely agree with you. And the problem is, like, their comp is fine in theory, right? You have so much AoE damage. It's very meta. You see this in the LCK all the time. You see Brand plus Rel plus whatever that you just throw in a team fight and it makes sense. But the fact that you're getting Flame Horizon by 28 minutes, the fact that you're down 40 CS at 10 minutes in side lanes, it makes it completely unplayable.
Yeah, I actually think the draft was really, really good by GX. It was one of the best drafts I've seen this year, and I think there was so many good win conditions for them, but they can't just get through this early game. It keeps being this thorn in their side. They just can't get through to mid game being somewhat even. It is very problematic.
Then how do you handle the early game then?
I think it's so difficult, and I think like there's no real way to tell you that they're just going to win against G2 like this, because G2 were the favorites coming in today for a reason, and whatever struggles they had against MDK, they're not really showing up right now. They don't have the same avenues to challenge some of the G2 laners the same way that MDK did. And I think no matter what happens, this might be GX's last game this year. I've really just hoped that they come together and play with pure aggression, because they can't just sit back and lose the game. They need something to play for.
I would really like them to just target one lane, preferably bot lane, and just try to create one winning matchup for them. Whether that is picking Patrick's Draven, that is really good on, he showed many times. Just like banning out 80 carries and then first picking a Draven, anything to give them one pressure point, because right now they're actually losing every single lane, and there's just no way for Juwan to help them.
We're all gonna take care of the champ select in around 1 minute, guys, so stay tuned. But it gives us time to talk about G2 and their approach, because I remember that we were really critical of what G2 did last week, especially when it comes to the priorities they have in draft, the read they have on the meta. everything game-related aside, guys, what do we think about G2's shifts maybe and the priorities they have coming in this week and drafts who make more sense? Maybe?
I really hope they shift away from the Maokai. Yes, I know it's OP. Yes, I know it's one of the best junglers on the current
he's
patch,
with you on that.
It synergizes, you know, so well with so many different champions that have AoE and pick potential like Jhin. But the problem I have is that Yike just isn't good on it. I don't know what it is. It looks like mental block potentially, but he always finds a way to die, play team fights or early skirmishes really poorly, and it's really strange because he used to be so good on it.
But in general, rest of G2,
yeah,
looking really good. I don't think there's a lot we can call out here. I think the bot lane's just been doing their thing. Mickey again on the Poppy, looking great. BB in the top lane, always having a field day. And Caps against Jackie is looking great too. I mean, Caps had a really horrible series in some of the games against MDK, but there's been no craps in this series. It's just been pure Caps.
It has been pure Caps, and that makes it even more difficult for GX trying to break through something here, because when you're gonna play against this caliber of G2 coming prepared the way they did, I feel sad for GX in the preparation and all the efforts they had coming into summer, and I see a lot of reactions here from GB, who's happy to see the Ashe ban.
I mean, I was talking about it a lot. I just don't like how they keep giving Ashe. I think Ashe is so unbelievably overpowered, and it makes the lane super unplayable. So now what they're doing is they're targeting AD carries.
That's exactly the MDK ban. This is MDK Game 2 bans on red side from Ginex. They banned Ashe, Kalista, and Misfortune. They just said, whatever we had planned here didn't work, let's do what MDK did.
But it's also what I like. That's what I said. I wanted to target Hans Sama champion pool and rather draft a strong AD carry now for Giantex, because now they actually can't pick on AD carry, they pick the Sivir, and they can actually pick whatever AD carry they want. They can go for Draven, they can go for a more meta champion like Jinx that's going to scale well into the team fights. Either way, they have options. They choose the Kai'Sa in the end, which kind of works well with Ignor's champion pool. Ignor likes these engaged champions, and Kai'Sa being the best pairing with those.
Well, being open still, do you want to prioritize this, or what do you want to pair Kai'Sa with?
The only thing I'm worried about is this potential Zeri flex to mid, and then you have Draven into Kai'Sa or something along these lines. But then you maybe could flex Kai'Sa into mid as well. So it's kind of that mind game right now. Maokai's probably the best jungler on the patch, so that's probably what they're going to lock in as well.
Yeah, I wonder how GT will respond to this, because now the standard option is to go Sejuani into the Maokai and just trade his tank junglers.
Ivan as well.
They did go Ivan game 1, but they also have the chance now to try to branch out a bit and go for the carry junglers like Lilia, but it's going to be Ivan coming in because it worked so well in the game 1. No reason to change it.
Yeah, you could secure a Rel or Leona here, and you just want you preserve the Zeri.
I imagine we're going to see the Alistar here coming in for Ignor. I think that's just his comfort champion, and he has had so many good performances on it. Good matchup into the Leona and works into the Rels, I'm sorry, and really good combo with the Kai'Sa.
I think you could also potentially do Braum, right? I think into it as alongside the Alistar.
You could go Braum.
Although you don't have the dive with the Kai'Sa, so that's probably
you could go Braum, but I feel like Ignor really needs these engaged champions to be unleashed. You can also go for a Rumble.
I was going to say,
Rumble
I mean, this is what G2 banned in the second ban phase in the earlier, right? And we have seen Antonio on Rumble. I would actually say that it's one of the few champions he piloted where he actually had agency on it. He has had good games on that champion, and I understand why they want to prioritize his Heon 3, can just ban out bad matchups of BB up into top side now.
Yeah, and I wonder what BB will play into the Rumble, because yesterday was sort of Cassiopeia, but there's a lot of champions, because Rumble has been nerfed.
Kennen, right?
It could be go Kennen as well, but Rumble has been nerfed. It doesn't have that insane damage on his flame speeder level 1 anymore.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about Kennen against when you have Maokai on the other side either. What bans do you want to see here, though?
I think they should consider which AD carries could be good as well for Hans Sama. I think Jhin and Draven could be great into the potential Kai'Sa, bully him out. Also, it synergizes really well, and Jhin applies to both champions, synergizing really well with the long range of the Rumble Maokai. So looking at that champion. But
that is assuming the Seri goes mid, right?
Yeah,
There's also the Corki and the Lucian and the Tristana but for Caps. Classic AD mid. It's so hard to ban AD carries now for Giant X. I think you might as well just target top lane bans to try to help this Rumble as much as you can.
There's simply not enough bans. Like, you want to cover the Rumble, you want to do what Aragon said about bot lane for Hans Sama, you want Caps not to have all the champions, you can't. There's only 2, and I think Giant X are just making the decision to say, okay, rid of the Cassandra, rid of the Corki. The cards have been dealt now, let's see how it plays out.
And the standard pick here into the Rumble with a tank top, with Ivern is a tank top, because the tanks do well into Rumble, and with an Ivern you really want someone that meatball that just can walk forward. Like an Ornn is classic, Cassandra also being a very good option. I wonder if Broken Bay will go into that, or he will choose something more volatile like a Camille that we've been seeing in the LPL LCK a lot.
A lot of hesitation on the GX side. To finally go with Rakan.
And the Rakan is just one of the more residual supports that are left, because they banned the Alistar, Rel is taken, you could go Leona or Nautilus, but I think the Rakan offers a bit more versatility in the engage styles.
Now that's a champion I like.
Okay.
That is a Tristana top, I think, or Serita.
top into Rumble?
Or Galio top? We're very unsure.
That is what I'm thinking.
I would definitely imagine it's Tristana top and Galio mid.
Yes.
Okay.
Just because Rumble does struggle against range champions slightly, and having the Tristana to kind of pressure him off with the fleet, space out the harpoons, and then eventually, if you have an Iron top, you can jump on him, get the Iron shield, and you just run him down in a long lane.
Sorry, I just have to say I love these drafts where you just have no idea what's going on as analysts. It's so fun sometimes you sit there and know that there's a meta where you can predict anything right. But in situations like this, we just have no idea what's going to happen. It's such a fresh breath of air, and I've really been loving that in our playoffs so far.
It's a Galio top, okay.
I mean, it's a Koenig angle, I guess, but it sounds really rough.
I have enough top laners next to me to talk me through this matchup on top lane and what we can expect from this year.
So Rumble is definitely going to pressure out this Galio early game. Rumble is winning against tanks early game no matter what. So Rumble really, the Galio will definitely need a lot of help to get to his first item, but when I think he has his Koenig Rukern, he has a magic shield on top of the Koenig, and he can actually just ignore Rumble's trade completely and walk into his face.
And I'm a Shyvana one-trick pony. I have no idea how this functions. Aragon, any word from our Renekton one-trick pony?
The last time I saw Galio top was double Doran's ring meta, and since then I imagine, I completely agree with Finn, I think it's going to be Koenig angle, but until then it's going to be completely bullying.
Let's see if this approach from GX is the one that's going to save them and allow them to push a bit further into this best of 5 against G2, or is G2 going to be the team facing off against BDS next week? Time for us to send it to the casters for this Game 3. Take it away, guys.
Well, here we go into Game 3. G have lived up to the 2 in their name. The question is the X a 3 or is it a 0 for this series?
Did you just make a math joke?
I did, yeah. So far, X has been equal to 0, and 2 has been equal to 2.
No, I got that.
And 2 might be equal to 3 at the end of this game, but it also might not be.
I think I can unplug them.
Well, hold on
the
to that.
hopes of millions lie on your head right now. As a reminder for everyone watching at home and here in the studio, LEC is on Friday and Saturday next week, not Saturday and Sunday, as we have usually been. Friday will be BDS versus the winner of this game, and Saturday is Fnatic versus MDK.
The last Galio top in the LEC was in 2017 by Fnatic. I don't remember that game. I was just told that. But
I know we heard a lot of whispers of it coming into MSI, saying that it was supposed to be a big thing. I don't know if it was specifically into Rumble. I suppose we're going to find out how good that goes, but I'm excited to see how this one does turn out, because I think a lot of our analysts were very excited to see this at MSI and never got a chance to. So nice of BB to bring it out, even if it's a little bit late.
I just love the fact that we're finally getting to see some interesting counterpicks into Rumble. I feel like that when a champion dominates the meta for so long, I'm kind of surprised that teams don't get more creative, but at the same time, I also understand that when you're in an intense regular season and the split moves so fast, sometimes teams just prioritize on getting something that's acceptable, like the Cassante we saw a lot of, right? But now that teams have had a little bit more time to cook, we've been seeing all sorts of things. Corky top, Smolder top, Nidalee top, right? Admittedly, a lot of those did come from a single player.
Yeah, Lulu top.
But now the Galio. So let's see how things play out. Already, we've heard from Finn and the other analysts how this matchup is expected in the early game. And the expectation is that Rumble should be able to bully out, just because Rumble still does Rumble things. But Broken Blade already looking to try and get some trades in the early 1 versus 1, as we see 80 carries across the board.
Welcome to League of Legends. 80 carries in every lane, farming minions. Broken Blade went Justice Punch first. He's running Aftershock in this lane. Sometimes you can see Grasp, but against a Rumble, you never really want to be in range to get those Grasp procs. All you're doing is extending the time at which he can Flame Spit at you. So Justice Punch gets the Aftershock, trades aggressively with the Antonio. Neither of them have burnt their pots early on. I was wondering if perhaps Yike would look for an early gank up towards that top side, because Antonio used his ward to ward out his own red buff, which meant there was a possibility of a gank, but on the Ivern, he's just going to clear his top side jungle and then work down towards the bottom side. The Winds of War there, hitting onto the Antonio. And anyone that's played TFT recently has seen how much damage Galio can do with that Winds of War.
Yeah, I think it's just nice timing here from Broken Blade. He's like waiting for his Aftershock to come back up before he looks to engage, waiting for that shield on the passive as well, and just making it really difficult for the Antonio to trade.
He did miss a cannon.
Wait, oh no, it's circles.
What are you doing, Medic?
-1.
Oh, stop.
No. It should be. Where is it? Hang on. Sorry. It should be. You just do this, where you just laugh at.
Yeah, laugh at him. For the Antonio, stonks are going up. You can check out the new emotes for the LEC teams over the. I think it's the 22nd of August. They all come out sometime this week, I believe.
Soon.
They are coming out. Yeah.
Meanwhile, my attention towards Mickey hovering around. I think he has been spotted though.
Yep. Gotta say, with the Gleaming Quilt going in, Mickey will be caught out. Does still have the crash down and will use it to escape.
Yeah, unfortunately, Giant X can see you if you don't move. So Mickey will get caught, but nice binding.
This one's going to land as well. Flash away early there by Juhan. Knew the Justice Punch was coming out from Broken Blade.
Gets the extra movement speed from the rune. The phase rush, and he's got away to safety. But a lot of skirmishing happening back and forth. I will say, on the top side, you know, I was expecting Rumble to actually have that early push, so I'm kind of surprised to see Broken Blade get that control over the wave. And the bot side of the map, due to the early roam from Mickey, who continues to spend his time around the mid lane, mainly assisting Caps when it comes to being able to put pressure down onto this matchup, along with having the security in the wave. Means that Ansam is just going to be sitting underneath his tower. But seeing the Zeri first pick, honestly, a big surprise for G2. This is a champion that I would say coming into this series, I didn't think Kansama could play. So I think G2 really trying to demonstrate the greater flexibility. Oh, Caps!
Oh, Trigger Seed! Ignite going for it! Looking for the Ignite, can't get the vision onto Caps in the bush there.
I swear that pod actually ended up saving his life, like the W into Flash auto. Oh, Trader flashes top lane. So some summoner spells are down. Junglers now need to pick their targets and look for some opportunities here, as there's a lot of great gank options. Broken Blade a nice health advantage over the Antonio. Can he interrupt?
He's just waiting. Don't think he will be able to, but we'll be able to get the shove here.
And no TP for the Antonio means that that wave will get underneath the tower. Ignat can dance back to Patrick and escape the clutches of Mickey.
I think the big person I want to see get active on Betty's point is going to be Ike. I mean, you've got TP burnt in both, the flash burnt in both solo lanes and on Juhan. Plus you've got a potential play on Patrick in that bottom side as well with a flash Q from Mickey. So Yike now looking to maybe make that play mid.
Going to jump onto Patrick first though. Shattering Strike for the stun. He'll be okay. Underneath the tower, as you say in the mid lane, Jackie's is dead. Pretty much. There we are. The final order from Caps is enough to take him out. With no flash, there wasn't really much of an escape available to him.
But that's what we needed to see from G2, punishing that flashless mid laner. The wave was in a very awkward spot for Jackie's as well. He was kind of forced to walk up to the halfway point just to be able to try and push that wave underneath the tower. And that's set up for Yike to be able to find the gank from the mid jungle of G2. First blood going over to G2.
Nicely done. The fact that now you can get that control in the mid lane for Caps is going to be great. Get that little bit of an advantage with the Vamp Scepter so you can trade heavily, but Yike now finds the Antonio, 6 for Rumble.
Yeah, Antonio has the equalizer, as you say, but Broken Blade pretty tanky already, and the equalizer does not live up to its name here. Broken Blade able to tank it up, and G2 get their second on the board.
G2 again are doing a great job of running this early game. Yike gets the play in mid, he knows he's got pushed, so he starts to move across here, and Broken Blade, they just solo out the Antonio to set up for the play. Now again, Ignar trying to cover mid, but Mickey's is also here.
That Caps coming in, Ignar there for the cover. Caps splashes over, maybe was looking for the Buster Shot back, didn't land it. And yeah, Caps invests his splash there for not too much in the end.
I think you're right, Medic. I think his idea was, oh, if I flash over, I can do some Tristana insect play. Yeah. Then he decided against it and said, yeah, actually, no, I don't win this. So he heads on out with the support of Mickey. But G2, when we think about the last 2 games, they've not really been very gank-orientated. They've been mainly trying to play through the pressure that they have in lanes, but this time around, trying to punish those summoner spells, trying to punish the positioning of Giant X. Giant X conceding those grubs due to that small skirmish not going their way, but it will allow them to get to this dragon after Caps is now forced to go back to base.
Back towards the top lane, the Antonio struggled a little bit in this lane. Obviously there's been a tension from Yike, but also the fact he wasn't able to get a good back timer to buy Sork boots means that Broken Blade doesn't have to worry too much about his magic damage. You can get that single bit of magic resist with a no magic mantle, and there's no penetration coming out from the Antonio. It becomes a lot easier for Broken Blade to survive in that lane, as we see a dive in the bot side. Twisted advance going in by Juhan. Mob, well, she's rung the dinner bell, but I'm not sure anyone's feeding yet. As Yike is able to force Ignar and Patrick away with a trigger seed on Daisy.
The Antonio's roamed down in towards the mid lane here, though, which Caps was leaning down towards bot side. I don't know if he's going to press up too far, though, especially since BB's probably calling, look, there's nobody in my lane at the moment.
Yike using Daisy as a moving ward there to distract Juhan as he takes away the blue. Broken Blade is going to meet with the Antonio in this bush. Jumps in with a Justice Punch and gets about half his health. Taunt back with that Shield of Durand.
So
able to walk away. Yeah, it's so powerful. Balmy Cinder as well just does so much work.
A change they made to Galio, I say fairly recently, was basically they wanted to give more agency to his passive. So they changed a little bit about how it works, and I forget the specifics, but basically you just get to hit them a lot more with that enhanced auto attack, and you can really see the damage difference in some of those extended trades. Broken Blade now with the magic resistance slowly starting to come through, but mainly that big health advantage just really helping him a lot in terms of being able to get out that trade.
Yeah, it was 14-6, Fetty, where they changed it. It used to be based off his ability haste, and what we see in the mid lane, Ignar jumping in, should be able to dash back out and escape. But yeah, it used to be based off his ability haste, and now it's based off how many times you hit opponents with abilities. So if you hit someone with an ability, it reduces it by 3 seconds. So if you get that combo off, you can get a Colossal Smash at the start and a Colossal Smash at the end of your combo.
Pressure lane here for G2 though. Just get a place. Jackie's taken low. They haven't moved Yike into a position here yet, so I think it will just be a case of backing away. But again, G2 starting to get a ton of vision on the top side of the map. And if they can just continue to have Broken Blade with this pressure on the top side, keep shoving with Caps in the mid lane, these turrets are going to start to get whittled down nicely.
Fortunately for Giant X, they find themselves in a position where they are once again just conceding plates, conceding lane control. And where do they even look for a play? To try and gank this Galleon? Well, Maokai plus Rumble gonna try and gank. Oh,
nice interrupt there by Mickey. Ignar should still be able to dance back to Patrick, who is flapping his way to assist his support, but that's a bit of play.
I genuinely just think that Giant X don't really have the damage anywhere to get a kill. And so they're just kind of forced to weather the storm once again. And G2 loves being in that position because it just means that they can continue to play for plates, leverage the strength of their lanes, and just kind of bully GX in this early game.
It's also like Broken Blade consistently having push in top means that he can always lean down and cover Caps if some sort of play happens in mid lane. Hansama having push in bot means Mickey is also leaning towards mid. So the windows of opportunity or places you can find those moments to get a gank off are just next to none. And Yike has a field day the entire time because his options are way more open. So I think that's where Giant X are struggling now. Going to move over towards the Void Grubs. They do have push here, but Broken Blade can move first.
He's going to start working his way down from the top side. Juhan and Jackie still trying to keep these Void Grubs interested. Caps backing away towards the mid lane as the bot lane of Giant X is the first to move. Not resetting. Hansama still on his way down towards bot, means that G2 are looking to contest this, but it's 2-2 so far, and Giant X have the man advantage, the numbers advantage. Caps TPing back in. G2 could take a fight, but they'd be undermanned because Hansama is still working his way down towards bot. Second Void Grub for Giant X off this play. They'll secure it. 3-2 so far. Will they look for one more? Hans is showing in bot lane. The Antonio just base, but does have the TP if he wants to rejoin the fight. Giant X will get their fourth grub. 4-2 in the end as the root caller comes down onto Ignar, and I don't think Giant X want much more from the play. They got the neutral. Now Ignar has to dash away because Mickey was looking for that re-engage. Patrick can flap across the wall and answer Broken Blade in top.
Yeah, they're just happy as G2 to get the plates instead. You've got push there, one in top side for Broken Blade. On the bottom half, Hansama going to get a couple more for himself. So yes, you get an extra grub as Giant X, but you spend a lot of time there. Now the TP onto the Antonio.
TP in by Broken Blade. The Antonio does have a flash, the equalizer coming out, but he's torn it up, and Hansama and Broken Blade will melt him down. No escape for the Rumble. Hansama gets his first of the game.
I think that was a really smart sequence of play from G2. They don't overcommit trying to fight for the grubs. As Dagda was saying, their priorities are on the side lane. They're pushing top lane, they're pushing bot lane, they have control over mid. It's going to be super difficult for Giant X to respond. And the moment that the Antonio appears on the bot side of the map, they can leverage the TP to find themselves a pick. Getting themselves another kill, extending the gold lead even more. They don't have great position right now for the Dragon because of the resets that have come through, but it looks like Giant X are hesitant to start this objective anyway.
And it looks like G2 are just going to start to rotate up towards topside. You can see where Mickey is. They want to try and catch Jackie's as he gets to the lane. Jackie's will just spot out Mickey, who's going to zone him away from this turret and leave Caps with a little bit more of an opportunity to get those taps onto the tower.
But like, just look at the minimap and you can just see the assignments and how this is how G2 just gotten the better of Giant X across this series. Mickey's in a good position knowing, oh, I know what Giant X is going to do. I'm going to be in a position to assist Caps. He gets himself another plate. Now they walk away. Giant X is now overstacking top. This now leaves room somewhere else on the map for G2 to potentially put pressure. G2 and Mickey can move into the bot side river, start threatening this mid tower, maybe even convert that pressure into a dragon. Instead, they might just go for a fight.
Forward with the quickness, with the charm. Redemption comes out. Caps able to jump across the side. Knocks back Jackie's with the buster shot. Caps is so low. The trigger seed saving him for a second. The Magnus Storm coming out from Mickey as well. But Jackie's has already found the first kill. Juhan falling low. Mickey being opened up on. He'll flash across the wall, but Patrick will chase him with a flash of his own. Hunt Summer sliding in like Tony Hawk across the wall. Yikes, surviving with 30 HP. And now Patrick's on the wrong side of the rift. Daisy going to chase him out. And it looks like he's going to sacrifice himself to the tower. Not sure if anyone's hit him recently. Don't think it will be an execute. In the end, it will be Yike picking up the kill because, of course, Daisy got that auto down.
A really nice fight coming out from kind of both sides. I honestly think this was a mistake from G2. Giant X find a window to just dive on top of Caps, knowing that they should have a damage advantage. And Caps plays it about as well as he can. Nice positioning, nice sidestepping, but then the arrival of Patrick really starts to swing the fight in their favor. Where things start to turn back in the way of G2 is the arrival of Hans Summer, and Giant X have realized, hang on, we've overcommitted a little too much. If they could get this kill onto Yike, it probably would have been worth it. But Hans Summer ends up picking up that kill. Yike gets this, thanks to Daisy, getting this extra kill onto Patrick. And yeah, a very chaotic fight on the top side of the map that I honestly think G2 didn't have to take, but smart on Giant X to find that opportunity.
Yeah, Giant X trying to say, hey, look, G2 going to look for that side lane play, so let's try and catch them out. But just barely able to come out on top. And now Hans Summer going up against Jackie should be able to finish off this tower. We're having Mickey in support. Ignar not really in a position to go for this. And that dragon is still up and available. Neither team were looking for it. As you were saying, G2 looking to get map presence instead, especially with mid lane down. If they can get both these side lane turrets, they're in such a good spot.
Caps, after taking mid, will work his way down towards the bottom side. Broken Blade can shadow him, does have that hero's entrance. Tower falls in top. Caps jumps onto the Antonio, and I'm not sure the Antonio has a way out of this one. Caps cleans him up for his second kill of the game, 7-2 now, and a 6,000 gold lead for G2.
I mean, it's the story of the series, right? G2's about to go 3-0 towers up in the early game.
Hans is going to get rooted, cleanses. Juhan underneath the tower, lightning crash. Hans needs a hero, and here comes Broken Blade, but Hans Summer is a mile away. The redemption coming out, Jackie's falling low. Mickey there with the Magnus Storm, and Hans Summer able to escape. Juhan could start to retreat because he knows his team's days are numbered. G2 collapse, they'll take Patrick, they'll take Jackie's, the Antonio's already dead, and Caps is still pushing bots.
G2 brought a literal Goliath to the fight, and it works out beautifully for them. Hans Summer able to just barely escape, and they didn't even need Caps for it. He was just pushing in this bot side the entire time with Rift Herald in tow. This is looking very G2 favored once more.
Giant X are trying to get scrappy with G2, and things just are not panning out the way that they want. Every single fight, it's going to be another pick here, I think. So they have the damage.
It's going to be Jackie's joining the fight, but Juhan's already down to about 200 HP. Ignite here for a bit of shielding. Dances in with the battle dance. Broken Blade falling low, will fall to Jackie's first. And now Mickey needs to try and get the hell out of dodge. The trigger seed on him buys him a second, but it's not going to buy enough. 2 over to Jackie's. The Antonio now collapsing on Hans Summer, and I'm not sure he wins out this fight. Hans Summer doesn't have the flash, but can just dash across the wall to the relative safety of the river.
Well, that was a bit of an overstep from G2. Broken Blade and Mickey say, hey, we're super tanky, we can take this fight, but they could not. The collapse comes down onto Hans Summer. 4 members on the top side, the idea is good, but Zeri, she is an interesting champion in her ability to just glide over walls, and I think at this point Giant X realized, hang on, we've overcommitted. We've dived too deep trying to get this kill onto a single member, and G2 are able to turn it around relatively easily.
It's also just how frustrating it is to play against Ivern. You go to dive in, as Kai said, try and finish off Hans Summer. Shield, redemption, another shield from Thorell as well. It just was impossible to try and finish him off and end up baiting in Giant X. So G2 now could go for the Dragon. You can see the pings considering that might be the objective that they go for. But at this stage, I don't think Dragon's going to be the win con for any of these teams. So it may just be a case of trying to keep up pressure on the map. See if you can force Giant X out of position, and then use the fact you've got Broken Blade who can come in with an ultimate to put pressure on mid turret, or even just try and zone away people if they defend the turrets.
Giant X currently looking to collapse on the global. A strategy that has worked so many times for teams in the past. Used to see it a lot against Shen, so you just try and constantly gank the Shen, but here Broken Blade backs away and Caps continues to push in the side lane. A 7,000 gold lead for G2. 2 items on Caps, most gold in the game. Hasn't even leveled up his boots yet. Jackie's has just pinged over to 2 items himself with the Ginsu's crack and complete. I wonder if Giant X will want to take a fight. It's only second Dragon of the game at first for G2 because of course Giant X took one earlier on. And as you say, Rob, don't think Dragon stacking is really going to be the name of the game this match.
Baron in about a minute's time. I wonder how quickly G2 will look to try and leverage that objective. So far this series, they've been using it as a tool to start fights, and it's been a very effective tool, I will say. Broken Blade has his eyes set on Patrick.
Still only has 151 stacks this game. It hasn't really had to lane against 2 players too often. It hasn't really had the safety to step up and use that scorching breath to get more stacks. So it's been a bit of a struggle for Patrick. Usually you want to be getting up towards that 225 around the 20-22 minute mark. Here he is going to struggle to do that. Still only on 1 item as well. Not even stacked up his tier as of yet.
Again, I think some of the big takeaways if you're a G2 fan looking at this series are...
I'm sorry, 3 control wards in a bush is overkill, lads. I think we're good.
Are they definitely not there?
Especially as Hans Sommer could just queue them over there.
But there's one left.
So. Genius. Riptail charge in the top lane. With the tier 2 is siege down to about half HP. Nature's Grasp coming out from Juhan. G2 able to tank that one up. Broken Blade on the front line, and no one's really taking any damage on G2 as of yet.
But Caps now, again, it's just a split push, man. It's been the G2 story for so much of playoffs and now into this game as well. He's just going to solo farm up, get into a position where he's always threatening his turrets, and as Tristana, the pressure that you can have on the map is absolutely insane, especially when Broken Blade can just ult in on top of you if Giant X ever overcommit there.
The taunt in by Broken Blade. Patrick having to try and get away. Ignite does land the knock-up onto Mickey, but even with him tanking the tower, he still only takes about a quarter of his health. Caps clears out the Wolves, will go back towards mid. There's no wave in the top lane, so G2 can't pressure 2 towers at once, but they can definitely take the tier 2 in mid. The Root Caller lands into the Magna Storm, and here comes the hero. He's fresh for the fight. Giant X forced away. Jackie's ticking to the Ignite. Equalizer down. Jackie's just about survives on the backline, but G2 will use the pressure in mid to open up the base.
It's Giant X immediately forced to retreat to the safety of their fountain. 21 minutes in, and G2 will crack the base of Giant X. It's a 10k gold lead already, and Giant X have barely been able to throw a stone against the Titan that is G2 in this series.
G2 have caught them every step of the way, and this is just great positioning from G2. They knew that Giant X were moving to try and transition into the mid lane and cover that tower, so they cut them off and cut the feed out from underneath them as well. Beautiful stuff from G2, and it's an easy picking as they find GX in their own jungle.
Yeah, we talk about non-committal engage from time to time as something that teams really value. Ivan actually has that in spades. You can put the Daisy out, he can get some knockups. Root Caller, you don't have to right-click the target. We have seen players obviously mistakenly click it and go in when they didn't quite mean to, but you can see there Yike just fishing with those Qs, and as soon as one lands on a priority target, everyone dive bombs in. Allows Mickey a fast track to the back line. It makes it a lot easier for him to lay a CC on top of it.
Especially when 4 of the members on G2 aren't particularly tanky. Like, going into a rumble and a lot of AD carries is not going to be the best of situations, so non-committal engage, fantastic in the meta at the moment, as that's currently what we see a lot of, is 3 carries, and G2 playing very well around it. Now Broken Blade pushing in, gets that top lane turret, and it looks like it's just a fall back to Baron, as that is a very, very dark area for Giant X.
Giant X have a tiny bit of vision in that top lane try, but with the TP coming in, I don't really think they'll be able to challenge this one too effectively. G2 are calling Giant X to the battle. They have a control ward in, but immediately Ignat pays the price of putting it down. Mom is not going to be able to save you from this situation, Giant X. G2 take the Baron, they'll take the kill, they'll take a 12,000 gold lead. I think they want to take the series.
It isn't really fair to moonwalk over the pit, kill Ignar, and then moonwalk back over with the next Q from Ivor. Like,
it's a thriller,
it's
man.
It's too stylish, yeah.
Way too cool from G2. Broken Blade flanking here as Giant X trying to defend. Ignar back up to bolster the defenses, but even his contributions don't do much in the face of G2, who continue to march forward. Nature's Grasp coming out, Mickey tanks it, Caps takes a shot as well, but buffers out his jump. The hero's entrance from Broken Blade will separate the two teams. Ignar forced to dance away, Broken Blade flashes and lands a two-man taunt. Patrick has to flash away, Caps jumps forward once again with that rocket leap, but can't find purchase on the fight. Instead, they find purchase on the inhib, and that will fall. Top and mid now down. The Baron remains for 2 minutes time, and G2 are looking to end the series right here, right now. The first Nexus tower is laid to ruins. Broken Blade almost the same. The Trigger C just in time to save his life. Will G2 continue to advance? Will Giant X find a way to win out the fight? No TP for Broken Blade means that likely G2 will allow Giant X to live to fight another day. Perhaps mistimed recalls here. The Twisted Advance coming out. Yike stays around. Giant X looking to collapse. Caps waits across the wall. The TP behind as well on that control ward. Hunt Summer can open up. Has that lightning crash, and Juhan's already down to half HP. The Antonio coming for the flank, and Juhan will fall first. The Antonio looking for something, but he can't find it, and the rest of his team has left him to the wolves that are G2. It looked like G2 would need to reset, but Giant X walked into their gaping maws. And now with Baron remaining for a minute and a half, I think it's all done.
You don't want to throw punches at a man that's walking away, and Giant X did just that, and G2 came back angry, waving top now. G2 want to make this the quickest game of the series.
The lower bracket run, a G2 speciality. Here they're looking to start it in emphatic style. Giant X, Patrick, Jackies and Ignar left to try and find a way back in, but Mickey is having none of it. He puts them back into the fountain, and Giant X will be taking a long vacation. G2, in dominant fashion, will take the 3-0 and meet up with BDS on Friday.
I mean, if you're a G2 fan, you really couldn't ask for much more. A very clear bounce back from their defeat against MDK, and they just dominated their opposition. Clean play from start to finish across the entire series. G2 looking in form with ultimately a strong read on the meta, which is one of the biggest questions that we had for this team.
Yeah, the fact that you're now starting to see those pocket picks come back out fills you with significantly more confidence for G2, but you can vote for your player of the series at LEC on X, Broken Blade, Hansama, or Mickey X.
All good options. I think Hansama has had a bit of a haircut if you looked at the picture in the middle. I believe that was Caps. But you can still, you know, if you vote for Hansama, maybe you're also voting for Caps in that situation, you know? Who knows?
Caps did enjoy his sidelines.
He did. Just had a lot of fun in those sidelines on the Smolder. Obviously for Giant X, commiserations. The end of the line for them. And we did see some strong signs from this team at times throughout the year, but they were never really able to break into the top 5 of the LEC, and we see them falling short once again here in season finals.
They made an ambitious change, introducing the Antonio to the roster, and I think they surprised many at various moments. They had some pretty crazy games. I still remember that Gragas performance where he was able to single-handedly turn the game around. But yeah, Giant X, unfortunately, they couldn't quite solve some of the key issues that they had. They had a core identity that they could never really move away from, and as the teams around them continue to elevate, they kind of stayed the same. So it is very unfortunate. I think this roster does have a lot of potential. I know that Jackies was this player that we kept track of throughout the entire year, only continued to get better, and I'm excited to see what he and many of the other members on Giant X can show us next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just a case of trying to figure out how to work through their mid game and at least getting that into a decent position. I feel like this is a roster that could definitely surprise.
Yeah, I think so too. We are waiting, I believe, for a couple of moments as Ginny is going to talk to one of the G2 players. I believe it's Caps, could be Hansama, but you can never quite be sure these days as to who it is. But yeah, Ginny just getting ready for it. So it'll be good to hear from Caps as well, especially after the disappointment against MDK last week, I think, for the team. MDK played really well, but
we
the
don't
G2,
have to wait much longer.
Yeah, they always expect to win. Ginny's now standing by with Caps in the Marriott Bonvoy post-game check-in.
Thank you, guys. Caps, thank you as well for joining. Congratulations, a very dominant and convincing win here against
Thank
GX.
you.
looking at the performance that we've seen today from the team and comparing it with the series that we saw against MDK, some of the mishaps that we saw then, we didn't see any of them today. You've only had 1 week to prepare, so what did that look like?
I mean, definitely, I think we were not playing our best last week, and I think we, now that our backs are against the wall, you know, and we really have to show up. I think that's where we shine, and it was a fun best of 5 today, and I'm looking forward to all the other best of 5s we get to play, because if we had one last week, we wouldn't even play this week. So definitely nice to get to go here.
So you're having a great time in these best of 5s with the pressure on top of you as well?
I mean, for sure, yeah. I think this is what you want, right? For like an esports career to really play with everything on the line, and I'm just happy we can be here.
It looks like you guys are genuinely thriving under the pressure. I mean, it sounds like you're having fun. Question is, do you think the fans are having fun with the amount of nerves that you're putting them through as well? Because you are in this lower bracket, right? If you do lose, you will be out.
Yeah, for sure. I think I think a lot of fans are quite scared. I think especially last week was definitely. I mean, actually, not even just last week, but also the finals and the semifinals from last split. I think we have had a lot of back and forth games, which makes it a lot of fun to play and watch, maybe, but also definitely quite scary. So we'll clean it up a little bit, but not enough that it gets boring, right?
Okay, so you got to keep the content in there. When you're talking
No
about
problem.
cleaning it up. Hey, you know what? They're loving this. I guess they're not too worried about those heartbeat monitors. When it comes to cleaning it up, though, in the couple of games you have left, obviously you're playing against BDS next week. It's also going to be a best of 5. What does that cleaning up look like to you?
I mean, I definitely think we are playing more as a team this week. It felt like we were doing less solo plays, and I think a lot of the solo plays were maybe going wrong last week. And I also think we're getting a bit more comfortable with the meta. I think last week we were trying a lot of things, and it was maybe some champions that we didn't necessarily have that many games on. And of course, with Mad Lions also playing some unorthodox strategies, it became a bit out of our comfort zone. But I think this time around there was a lot more things we have played before, and also some the same strategies from our opponents. So yeah, definitely helps making us more comfortable.
It does, because we saw that comfortability today. And I want to talk about the meta, particularly Galio top lane into Rumble. This was something that, if we throw back to MSI, was something we were expecting to see a lot, but we didn't. So what was the Galio pick into?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the Galio was quite strong this game. They had a lot of dive champions, right? Like they were trying to go really deep with the Rakana and Kai'Sa and stuff, and the Galio was able to peel them off quite well. So definitely quite a strong Galio pick, and I'm happy BB had a good game on it.
He did, indeed. And he's also on the other side with PGL, with Laura and Aragon. Anything you want to say to him?
I'm going to say good job on the series today, but don't get too cocky.
Okay, well, I'm sure you're going to take it into consideration. And Laura, please do take it away.
Thank you so much, Ginny. Having broken blade in PGL and don't get too cocky. I'm not sure this one's gonna work. Congratulations, Vivi.
Thank you. I'm usually never cocky. But
No.
Thank you very much.
No. Then, well, thank you for coming back as G2. Honestly, with the series you had last week. But we're gonna touch on this one a bit later. Any expectations you had coming in today with GX?
Honestly, I mean, for us, it was really important that we show a good performance after what we have shown in the Mad Lions series, and I'm very happy with how we played today. I feel like most of the games were pretty good, pretty clean, we were pretty far ahead most of the time.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with today.
Aragon, I called you out on coping hard at the beginning of the day. I would like to apologize on that.
My take was that last week you guys had the lower bracket to fall back on. So you were really trying something you had tested. Coming up to, you know how it's all AD carries and the counter to that in theory is dive and set up, with a Nocturne and a Vi. But you kept doing it even though you kept struggling and losing and what have you. Was that the reason? Were you experimenting because you knew you had something to fall back on?
I mean, basically, we had a plan, right, obviously.
Yeah.
And the plan was working quite well in practice.
Yeah.
And then on stage, sometimes it's just you get hit with something that is unexpected, especially from a team like Mad Lions.
Yeah.
I think Mervin, that series was very good. I think some of his picks were a bit questionable, like the Lulu top.
Yeah.
But I think the rest of the champions he picked was good. I think the Nidalee was a bit questionable. He did play very well on it though, so I was not expecting that. but he played very well. I think next time I will meet him, it won't be the same. This will be the only time it will be like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't work. This time we... Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm just super excited to talk to you. Like, top lane, it feels like a wasteland right now. Like, what is going on with that? You see, like, Nasus over in the LPL LEC a lot. You see 80 carries, absolutely any pick. What is going on there? Do you think it's going to get even deeper? Are you going to pick up some of the Nasuses? And
is everything meta or is nothing meta and you can just have fun?
I feel like top lane is awful right now.
Yeah, it feels fun to watch. Is it bad for you? That's a lot of questions.
I mean, for me, it's usually always fun to play different kinds of champions, but also, like, in the first game, they banned 3 top laners as well.
Yeah.
I was, like, not expecting that. So I just, went to K'Sante. Everyone knows K'Sante.
Sadly, we do.
But then I got to play Yone and Galio, which is not very normal picks as well for top lane nowadays. I mean, especially Galio. So I was actually very, very happy playing these champions today.
It's funny that Galio comes up now because if I remember correctly, and tell me if I'm wrong, it was one of the champions we expected to see at MSI.
Exactly. This is
in this matchup as well.
Yeah,
no?
this is a pick I played in MSI.
Yeah.
And I was practicing it a lot. The difference is that Rumble was very strong in lane. He did get a nerf earlier, and then now the matchup is much more playable than before.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it's a champion again? Top lane being a wasteland right now, where you can play pretty much anything. If Rumble keeps on being played, do you expect Galio to come back as well, or was it like a situational pick like Cassiopeia yesterday?
Well, I can't
I know you can't say too much.
That, but I mean, obviously, I think Galio is strong against heavy magic damage, and they did have heavy magic damage on the top side.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a nice pick in this game, and I had a good combo with. In this game, I had Rel, occasionally Caps jumping in, and I can ult on Caps on the Tristana. So I really like to pick this game.
Last thing to do with the meta, because it's just super interesting. Why the heck was the Antonio spamming 13 games of Ziggs in solo queue top lane? Like, what is that about?
Because
like,
you banned the champion.
You banned it. You were like, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
What is that?
Like, we're also like, oh, this is not normal, right?
Yeah.
Like, we obviously are paying attention to what other teams are playing and practicing. And Antonio was playing 20 games of Ziggs, but not top lane.
Not top lane.
For us, it was.
Do you think it had to do with the lane swap at the start? So they were going to, like, maybe instead of what they did with Poppy, they were going to put Ziggs down in bot side with the support.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think once we banned it, they were like, oh, let's just do it anyways. I think, like, in hindsight, I was really glad we banned Ziggs because I think we would just not know how this game is going to go, knowing they might put Ziggs bot and he's just going to play Ziggs bot, right? Because they also open up the game with 3 top lane bans, so they obviously were cooking something. So we didn't even want to, like, get into dealing with this game in the first place, because I feel like the only thing that could make us lose today is uncertainty in like strategy and drafts, and we really wanted to eliminate that. So I think we did a good job with that.
Everything felt super clean today, coming from you, coming from every player actually. But one has been chosen as the key player of the series. He is by the fan. Do you know who it is? I don't know if it's spoiled in the.
I would say Caps maybe.
Well, Hansa.
Yeah, Caps or Hansa.
Yeah, makes sense to you.
Yeah.
I mean, Hans was playing amazingly last week as well, continuing this week.
Yeah, I think Hans been doing quite well. We are also giving him that feedback, but he can't get cocky, obviously, right? We are all here doing our best. And I think Hans especially has been doing very good in terms of like attitude and like stuff like that. So it's very nice to have players like that on your team. Obviously, no offense to our other teammates. They all are doing great. Very lovely to play with these groups of people.
Lovely group of people. Thank you, Topfather, for this enlightened content and feedback about your teammates. We're going to come back to you a bit later. But first, of course, with G2 winning, we have to say goodbye to GX, who had an amazing year and a surprising summer, honestly. And Ginny is standing by with Caps in the Bonvoy post-match interview.
Thank you so much. We're joined here with Cast, coach from GX. I appreciate you taking the time after today's game to have a little bit of a sit down and a conversation. I would like to start things off with the fact that you've made it this far, and I hope you and the players are proud of yourselves. But I also wanted to talk about the takeaways from the season, from the year, from this game particularly as well.
I mean, that's a lot. I think as a staff, we try to keep the dream alive, that we can win. But ultimately, we fell short, and it sucks, but yeah. Okay.
It's okay, take your time.
Yeah.
It's not an easy position to be in. I think for everyone really in the situation, but the fans are still out in support, and at the end of the day, the dream is still alive, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, for the fans, we wanted to give a good performance, and I mean, this was not a good performance. It was a stomp 3 games in a row, so.
Yeah, it's not a nice situation to be in, and obviously it sucks, but I do hope as well that when we're looking at the year that GX has had, I think there were a lot of questions as to how the team was going to perform, especially with the new pickup in the mid lane when it came to Jackie's. Everyone was like, oh, where did they find this? But I feel like you guys have proved yourselves, and you've proved the doubters wrong as well in that regard. So when it comes to how far you've made it, I hope you guys go back home tonight and, you know, give each other a hug and spend some good times together.
I mean, what's important in the end, we still like each other, which is good.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy for that.
I'm happy for that as well. Thank you so much. And is there anything you would like to say potentially to the fans and those at home looking forward to next year?
I mean, thank you for keep supporting, even though the games are not the greatest. We really appreciate it, especially, I mean, the old Giants fans. They are very like family feeling, so thank you for that.
Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to the future for Giant X. I'm sure it will be bright. And Laure, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ginny. Amazing to hear from Cass one last time, honestly, especially after the year GX had, Aragon, when you think about, I don't know, black and white results for the first portion of the year, and then replacement into the team, into basically having the best split they had this year. So, of course, sad to end here. Was difficult to make against G2, but yeah, I do want to appreciate the improvements from this team.
I mean, yeah, that's the big thing. I think the biggest thing to me for Giant X is the fact that they found their identity. They found it through Caps, especially, sorry, not Caps, sorry.
We keep on saying Caps all the time.
Jackie's in the mid lane, where they kept playing through mid, giving him draft resources, giving him everything that they could possibly do. And that way they found some success. It was such a massive glow up, and I don't think that can be understated.
Yeah, I mean, looking forward to seeing what this team is going to become next year. It's always difficult, given how long the off-seasons can be when you end the year at that point. Of course, we'll be waiting to see what happens to this team in the future, but focusing on the winners here. G2 will face against BDS next week. And BB talking to Adam yesterday, he was saying something that stuck with me, is that you have to face G2 in the playoffs whenever you want to feel something, whenever you want to win something, you have to face against G2. Otherwise, the victory doesn't have the same taste, the same value. Kind of like being the final boss here in the league.
I mean, I think it's really funny. We were also talking about BDS. They always got third place, and now they have to beat us to even have the chance to achieve third place. So for us, it's an extra motivator to beat them, because I think BDS over the years, they just have been doing so much better and better every split. Huge shout out to all the players. I think they're very hardworking players, at least from the outside perspective.
Yeah.
So for us, it's going to be again a nice challenge. Also coming from the lower bracket, now we are able to beat every single team going into the finals. Also beating them. We want to take it step by step, because the previous runs have been a bit shaky for us. So we want to really, really go in with a confident mindset and beat every team, obviously. But we're going to take it step by step. Now we can prep against BDS.
Okay.
And hopefully beat them. No, beat them.
Yeah. That's the confidence we need.
On August 23rd.
On August 23rd, yeah, because reminder, LEC broadcast, and that's an amazing segue to me. Thank you so much, Vivi. Next week, LEC is going to be on Friday and Saturday. So you're going to face off against BDS on
August 23rd?
Yeah, on Friday, August 23rd. You guys have it at home. Aragon, I'm really confused, because looking at the series we had yesterday, SK BDS, and today G2 GX, I don't know what I learned about this team besides the fact that they're doing better.
I think the big thing is that Adam's playing better now, and so, you know, maybe you have to worry about something like a Cassiopeia flex, some little curveballs in draft. Maybe that was only an answer into Rumble, but you know what I mean. Maybe there's a bit more contention there. My big question is how much of it was SK being bad, because BDS have not performed well for a very long time, ever since regular Summer Split, in my opinion. So how good they actually are compared to how bad SK were, I think is what you have to worry about.
Exactly. I think SK has been on a downfall ever since they're 8-1 in the regular split. But obviously, I have to give credit to BDS. I think especially Adam as well. I think he has been playing a lot of different champions, but he's been performing much better than what people would expect on what he would perform at. Right?
Range champs, right?
He's playing Cannon more now, and like the Cassiopeia is something I knew he was playing a lot. It started when I played Cassiopeia first, I believe. That's when I saw him starting to play it. But we're gonna see what he has cooked up, right? We're gonna have something nice prepared, so it's gonna be very interesting.
So you're saying top lane is gonna continue being a wasteland?
I love it.
Oh,
You're gonna have fun
I'm
on top
not
lane
sure. I
ages.
can't comment too much on that, right?
Of
Like
course.
sometimes also on the day you just like
give me Cassante.
just give me your own, you know. Like give me your own is spawn picking Ornn is not allowed. But yeah.
Yeah, let the players have fun on top lane. They don't have fun enough throughout the years, throughout the season. I think that's something you guys complain way too much about. But that's that's a story for another week. Pardon me, English is hard. That's all for us here. Aragon, thank you so much for being with me on PGL. It was amazing. Quick prediction before we go on next week's games, MDK Fnatic. MDK Fnatic.
Yeah, that's really hard to. I mean, it has to be Fnatic.
Yeah.
I feel like. Go on.
I will say Fnatic 3-0.
I have to agree.
All right, we'll see about this next week. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Vivi. We'll see
Thank
you
you very
against
much.
BDS next Friday, as we said. That's all from us here today. And next series we'll have this weekend will be Fnatic versus MDK, who will fight for the first spot in Munich. And BDS and G2 also want to keep the dream alive to make it to the roadshow. For now, make sure to stick around for some LCS action. Goodbye. See you next week, guys. Friday.
This season, we've heard a lot of talk in the LCS. Anyone can say they've got what it takes to step onto this stage and put their opponents in the dirt. But only the best can back it up when it really matters. And it really matters now in the LCS playoffs. It's a chance to show that your greatest achievement wasn't just a fluke. That you're not washed. That you're the heroes, not the villains. That the lights aren't too bright. That you deserve to be called Super Team. That you just might be the LCS GOATs. Watch it out, baby. Unfortunately getting with a full team engagement.
You think you can lift me? I can feel him shaking. He can barely hold
my bicep, man. I'm
massive
holding your whole legs with one arm.
Let's go, G2.
There's the first bit of CC, and Ignat is going to pay for Antonio's dive in with his life, and the Antonio might be soon to follow. Cass has so much free time in the top lane. The lightning crash coming out. Magnet Sword from Ignat as well, but Broken Blade has already found 2 out of the fight. They're going to make it 3. It's a disaster for Giant X, and G2 happily eats up their reward. I think G2 may be angry today. Jackies, who still has a flash. Yike now hits the level 6 off the minions, but he's gonna die to the Pyroclasm. But they still manage to lock him down for a second. The True Shot Barrage coming out as well in the end. Broken Blade falls to the place. Juhan takes him, but Mickey, flash, ignite. At that time still remains a question. Hans Summer flashing forward underneath the turret. Juhan caught out down towards the bottom side as well. G2 find 2 more. He's torn it up, and Hans Summer and Broken Blade will melt him down. No escape for the Rumble. Hans Summer gets his first of the game. G2, in dominant fashion, will take the 3-0 and meet up with BDS on Friday.